Hey guys, tonight we're wandering into one of the strangest corners of ancient history. A world full of war horses, dusty battlefields, legendary kings, and friendships so intense they could bend the course of empires. We're talking about Alexander the Great and the cavalry of lifelong friends who followed him into places no sane person would willingly go. Not the polite museum plaque version of Alexander, not the shiny golden armor, dramatic statue pose version. I mean the real Alexander, sweaty, exhausted, probably dehydrated, and constantly convincing his closest companions to gallop straight into danger at his side. These weren't just soldiers, they were the elite, the "I guess we're storming a fortress again at sunrise" squad. Imagine your childhood best friends, except instead of arguing about snacks or video games, you're all swearing lifelong loyalty, sharpening spears, and charging into battle like adrenaline-addicted madmen who somehow keep winning. But before we ride out, go ahead and like the video and subscribe, but only if this kind of quiet, weird dive into history actually relaxes you. If not, no hard feelings. Alexander didn't conquer the world in a day, and I won't conquer your recommendation feed either. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, and what time it is for you right now. It's always the middle of the night somewhere, and if you're here, there's a good chance sleep is sneaking up behind you like a Persian scout thinking he's clever. Now dim your lights, settle into your pillow. Maybe wrap yourself in a blanket like a loyal Macedonian cloak, because we've got miles of dusty roads ahead of us and morale is high, but sandals are uncomfortable. And tuck your feet in, not for rats this time, but so a stray warhorse hoof doesn't tap you. Totally unlikely, definitely impossible, but just in case. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what it felt like to follow someone, not out of fear or orders, but pure belief? To ride beside the same friends you trained with your whole life, breathing dust, hearing metal clash, adrenaline racing, and thinking, yeah, this is insane, but we're doing it anyway. Was Alexander truly great? Were his companions loyal heroes? Or thrill seekers who forgot what retirement meant? Did they win because of genius or pure stubbornness? And most of all, what does friendship look like when the stakes are life, death, and the edge of the known world? Tonight, we march with them, slowly, softly, from the comfort of your bed, without the sore legs, war elephants, or existential dread of ancient logistics. Breathe in. Let history settle over you like quiet night air on a battlefield long abandoned. And now, ease into the story, where loyalty was armor, courage was currency, and one determined young king convinced his closest friends to chase immortality right at his side. Let's begin.
Chapter 1. The Cat Who Chose Humanity. And now, let your breath slow as we drift even further back in time. Long before Alexander's fearless cavalry thundered across battlefields, before pharaohs carved their triumphs into stone, there was a quiet revolution taking place. One that changed history not through swords or chariots, but through grain and whiskers. Picture this: an ancient Egyptian granary at dusk. The air still holds the day's warmth, but the light has softened into gold and violet. The desert wind sighs gently against clay walls. Dust settles. Birds make their final calls before night claims the sky. Inside, a farmer, weary, sun-kissed and bearded, finishes his daily labor. His back aches from hauling sacks of barley, his fingers rough from tying tight bundles of wheat. Each grain matters, because grain is life. Grain feeds his family.
Grain feeds his village. Grain feeds the kingdom. And grain must be protected. He sighs, rubbing his brow, eyes scanning the floor. In the dim light, he sees movement, tiny shadows skittering near the sacks. Mice. Always mice. Hungry, bold, clever little thieves. They do not wage war, they simply nibble until hunger wins. And in the ancient world, hunger always tries to win. The farmer groans, not in anger, but in tired resignation. He cannot watch every corner forever. But he is not alone. Onto the top of a grain sack leaps a sleek shape, silent, precise, and regal in a way only nature can design. A slender cat, Felis sylvestris lybica, the African wildcat. Its ears flick, its tail twitches, its golden eyes, ancient, knowing, unimpressed, fix on the farmer, and the farmer freezes. The cat stares at him, not with affection or loyalty, but with that unmistakable feline expression that says, "You are here, I am here. This is fine." A partnership, born of necessity, and a mutual understanding that neither will ever truly acknowledge the other. The farmer clears his throat. The cat does not react. The farmer takes a step, cautiously. The cat blinks once, slowly, as if to say, "Do not disturb me." A mouse peeks from a crack. The cat's head snaps around with lightning precision. One heartbeat, two, and then, swift as a shadow, the cat leaps. A brief scuffle, silence, order restored. The farmer exhales, caught somewhere between gratitude and confusion. He never invited this creature, he never trained it. He offers no command and receives no obedience. Yet here they stand, two beings bound not by affection, but by necessity, by circumstance, by a strange, quiet alliance, forged in the grain-dust twilight, thousands of years before anyone would put saddle to horse and charge into legend. The cat returns to its perch, tail wrapped around its paws, already bored with heroics. The farmer nods in silent appreciation, knowing that tomorrow, and the day after, and the many days after that, his grain will have a guardian, not one of loyalty, not one of devotion, but one who simply likes the food source. Historians call it domestication, but perhaps that word is too neat, too proud for what truly happened here. This was the world's first symbiotic relationship, built on mutual indifference. A contract written not in ink, but in instinct. The farmer keeps growing grain. The cat keeps hunting mice. And together, without ever truly trying, they reshape civilization. Outside, the sky fades into night. Stars rise. The same stars Egyptians once traced into stories of gods and kings. And beneath them, this humble partnership continues in silence. As soft fur brushes against rough burlap, and ancient pores settle into a patient, eternal vigil. Rest with this moment. A quiet granary, a tired farmer, a proud, aloof cat, and the beginnings of companionship, born not from love, but from need and acceptance, and the gentle truth that sometimes the most enduring bonds
require nothing more than being in the same place, with a shared purpose, at the right time in history. Chapter 2: Smelly Dwellings and Cat Cuteness. Let's take a moment to picture your new digs. A Neolithic settlement in the late 4th century BCE, where you've just woken up, slightly confused but mostly excited. The air is crisp, filled with freshly trampled mud, and the remnants of last night's communal fire still hang like a stubborn cloud of smoke. Congrats! You've managed to transport yourself to a time when the morning dew is more of a refreshing wake-up call, and the nearest Starbucks is entirely mythical, much like your chances of seeing anything more sophisticated than a wooden spoon. As you step out of your makeshift dwelling, a charming little hut made of mud, sticks, and enough animal dung to daintily remind you who's really the boss around here, you're greeted by the sight of a charming oil painting coming to life. The settlement around you is bustling with activity, much like the trendiest farmer's market you can imagine, only this one doesn't serve fair trade kombucha and artisanal cheese. Instead, vendors are hawking various crops, and there's some serious beef going on, literally, as a nearby cow eyes you with a slight air of superiority. Now, let's talk about that delightful companion sniffing at your feet. A ginger cat with the most massive, innocent eyes you've ever seen is attempting to channel some serious influencer energy. Tilting its head ever so slightly, it employs the age-old strategy of pure, unfiltered cuteness, manufactured for one purpose: to secure that sacred morsel of leftover food. What a pro! You almost expect it to pull out an Instagram account right there, where it documents its daily quest for snacks and the idyllic chaos of life in your dusty homestead. Ever wonder if your life has become so mundane that you'd take tips from a cat on how to impress the locals for food? Welcome to the club. But this cat has bigger priorities than mere sustenance. You see, this furry feline is operating on a level only rivaled by the highest-ranking generals of Alexander's army, where loyalty and clever tactics could result in a lion's share of spoils, or, better yet, a fresh fish left unattended. Imagine a cat so cunning that it could recruit an army to willingly fetch its meals. We could all take some notes here. Maybe you can train a group of friends with slightly less success spent on snacks, and a bit more in sharing your love for vintage pottery. And amid the hustle and bustle, you're likely to abandon your coffee-in-hand illusion and instead ask yourself, what do I even wear for breakfast when all I have is woolly tunics that probably resemble oversized potato sacks? The locals are padding around barefoot, a peculiar display of rebellion against footwear that instantly screams, who needs shoes when you can embrace fine artisanal dirt? You start to question if high-end sock manufacturers will ever truly understand the plight of this well-connected, barefoot community. As you wander through the settlement, a wave of rich, earthy smells greets you. The tang of smoke from last night's stew, mingling with the scent of baked clay and something oddly sweet. Your stomach growls, a shocking reminder that a simple breakfast is as elusive as a cat's sense of discretion before crawling into your lap. It's like 10 witty meme-inducing breakfast ideas combined with catchphrases that relate to worthlessness in a self-sustained world without a hint of syrup.
You find yourself contemplating how best to survive the meager offerings of boiled grain, thinking life today is a tad more generous, with an abundance of breakfast options and zero need for hunting down mice between sips of lumpy porridge. But here's the kicker. Surviving on community meals means figuring out food politics, much like finding a decent parking spot at a packed brunch place on Sunday. Is that a fresh loaf of bread from the baker's hut, or just last week's leftover artisan loaf that grew its own ecosystem? It's a minefield of culinary choices that could leave you clutching your stomach in bitter regret. At least you won't feel bad about finishing a vaguely defined cauliflower dish that looks astonishingly better than anything you've ever taken a picture of for social media. On the daily grind, you might also encounter a few uninvited guests, including your friend's sheep, whom you're pretty sure is auditioning for an acting role in a bizarre play titled "Sheep Do Not Care About Your Privacy." Did anyone think this through before building settlements? Because your very existence seems orbits around curious animals, seeking breakfast more desperately than you. And as you venture deeper into the settlement, under the cloud of flowing cat charisma, and the alarming yet oddly amusing chaos around you, you feel your confidence growing, which is really just a delightful illusion. After all, if a smug ginger cat can make breakfast a competition, who are you to back down from absurd tactics of your own kindness? Welcome to life in Neolithic Wonderland. Your history lesson here is bittersweet, combining fluffy nostalgia with worry about cat whiskers possibly stealing your share of breakfast. As you start feeling at home in this striking tableau, remember, the greatest meals are often accompanied by a touch of history, a dash of comedy, and an overzealous hunt for food by a cuteness-loaded existential creature. In this charming village, survival and entertainment meld together like hand-woven baskets filled with questionable bread. Who would have thought history could be this unreasonably cute? Chapter 3. The Cataclysmic Cat Conundrum of 500 BCE. Hey guys, tonight we dive into something curved like a cat's back and dark as a superstitious medieval mood. A chaotic evening in a late 4th century European town square. Picture this. It's a time when the concept of personal space was not just blurred, it was practically non-existent. Everyone is out and about, crammed together tighter than the ingredients in a questionable medieval stew. As the sun sets and shadows stretch, tensions rise as fast as a cat's heart rate near water. Now, those adorable little felines you love, and may have even bought tiny sweaters for, are up against a fierce enemy, your average superstitious crowd in a medieval town. Imagine a horde, frantic and flailing, as they rush to eradicate every black cat in sight. It's like watching a poorly choreographed dance involving shrieks, shoving, and a lot of charmingly awful luck. Why, you wonder? Because, one way or another, they've convinced themselves those cats are plotting to steal their souls, or, worse yet, their last slice of bread. Ever thought you were surrounded by overzealous group texts? Welcome to the medieval version. As the people scatter, yelling about witchcraft and curses, the cats, those dimly lit ninjas, simply vanish into the shadows. You can almost hear the collective sigh of relief from the feline realm as they expertly sidestep the chaos, part of a long-running talent show titled How to Be Irresistibly Invisible in the Face of Mass Hysteria. They're like the bitterly sarcastic companions no one understands, slinking away to safer corners,
possibly exchanging knowing glances with one another. You can almost hear them mutter, "And you thought surviving the winter was rough." But let's unwind that image a tad. You've just been tossed into that town square, drenched in a storm of cat lovers and cat haters. The air is thick with the smell of roasted beast, likely resembling something that should have been left in the oven a tad longer, mixed with the pungent aroma of sweat and panic. You suddenly realize, in a twist of cruel irony, that the same folks who are flinging curses at cats are also the ones who probably just finished a couple of mugs of that questionable wine brewed from whatever was growing in the nearby field. As you look around, it's hard not to worry about your personal belongings. Have you left your prized woolen socks behind in that sudden flurry of chaos? Or were they swept up in the frenzy of people racing to protect their beloved pies? Because in medieval times, pies were held in such high regard that to lose one could be a traumatic event on par with, well, losing your pet. Suddenly, you've got a whole new set of priorities, keeping your lumpy socks and snacks safe from panic-stricken frenzies. What's that noise? Oh, just the collective clamor of shouting as one man trips over another, now dramatically claiming that the end is nigh.
He's waving his arms, adding flair to the situation, and causing nearby cats to twitch their ears, trying to figure out if his theatrics are worth their time, or if they should just continue deviously plotting their return to their rightful sun-soaked idols. Can you blame them? This is a prime opportunity. Every rat in the vicinity, perhaps, reeling from the blitzing human frenzy that could easily upend the food chain and ultimately lead to their triumphant return. That's right. You've just witnessed the start of the great plague of the cats, a riveting saga that generations will rehash around fires as they mourn the missed opportunities of, quite frankly, furry ghost stories. But a moment of seriousness strikes as you digest the deeper irony. You realize that while these townsfolk are busy driving away their furry friends, they're unknowingly setting up the stage for another disaster. One involving lots of uninvited guests with scurrying feet and an appetite for your leftovers. Yes, you guessed it. Plague-ridden rats. It's almost poetic if you think about it. A slapstick comedy of societal blunders where the true villains are lurking just out of sight, chuckling to themselves as they get ready to feast on discarded scraps. So, as the crowd's adrenaline begins to ebb and they stand, panting and ruffled, the cats are perched on rooftops, agile and aloof, possibly high-fiving each other with their little paws. Who needs a personal assistant when you have nature's own control agents whipping around unsuspecting homes, keeping their clandestine plots alive? It's enough to give you pause. If only those ancient townsfolk had realized that their actions were not doing much to help their cause. For every cat chased away, the rat-run fever only intensified, ensuring that after tonight's chaos, they wouldn't be sitting comfortably for the foreseeable future. Turn your gaze toward history, folks, because the wisdom gained is simply this: be careful who you antagonize, or you may just end up with a rat's colony as your newest tenants. And just like that, as you weave together the threads of a historical lesson with a modern-day chuckle, one thing becomes clear. While cats may be elusive, human folly often takes center stage, showcasing the true hilarity of how our past mistakes are mingled with the absurdity of our very nature. So, there you have it. The night lays bare the woefully misguided attempts of a panic-stricken town square, and the majestic,
stealthy escape of the interfering cats. After all, if you can't laugh at the peculiarities of life, especially life in the past, what kind of sleepy journey are you really on? Chapter 4. The Pursuit of the Posh Pussycat Cult. Hey guys, tonight we drift into something softer than feathers and more baffling than your last family holiday gathering. The sun-soaked temples of ancient Egypt, where worshipping cats was a full-time job and fish was their eternal bribe. Picture this. It's the late 4th century BCE, and you've just walked into a scene more majestic than a morning cup of coffee on a Monday. The scent of incense wafts through the air, curling around you like a cat's playful tail, while a feline deity stretches luxuriously on an altar, a symbol of humanity's finest tribute to their whiskered overlords. Now, you might ask yourself, what would life have been like for the devoted priests, tiptoeing around a creature so elegantly indifferent? Ever tried wooing a house cat into doing your bidding? I mean, good luck. You'd have a better chance convincing a rock to sing a lullaby. As you ease into this ancient epoch, take a moment to consider the typical day of a priest in this feline paradise. Did they start their mornings with a rousing speech about the virtues of cat worship, only to find their audience dozing off, right in the middle of a lecture on the sacredness of tuna? And you see, my friends, here in our temple Oh, look at Whiskers over there. Just look at that gaze of supreme neglect. How can one compete? It's like hosting an idolization seminar for the world's most aloof celebrities, who give as much consideration to their followers as an influencer does to their gym routine. Let's not forget the crucial offering ritual. Each day, our brave priests would present a veritable buffet of fish to their furry diva. Imagine the highs and lows of carting a cascade of the finest oceanic delicacies, only to have them snubbed with a flick of a paw. Oh, this looks nice, but I was secretly hoping for that one ancient fish recipe that requires hours of meticulous preparation and a dash of disdain. You can almost hear the cat's inner monologue, rolling its eyes at the pedestrian tastes of the humans around it. Now, let's dive a little deeper into the ambience. The temple walls shone like a freshly polished mirror, decorated with glorious depictions of cats strutting their stuff in gold and turquoise. Egyptian cats were the supermodels of the animal kingdom, flaunting their feline magnificence while humans did their utmost to keep the catnip flowing. You might wonder if the priests ever considered that their lives revolved around an unending quest to please supremely uninterested creatures. A career where every day is a difficult negotiation over fish? Sign me up, said no one ever, except, of course, for a devoted priest. Approaching the altar, the divine cat is sprawled like royalty, an embodiment of cat-like superiority. There's your priest, basket of fish in hand, heart pounding like a short-circuited toaster, just praying resistance isn't futile. Picture sweating profusely, your palms slipping slightly on the fishy basket, casting furtive glances as a cluster of mice huddle somewhere nearby, silently judging the entire ordeal. They've probably whispered to each other, "These humans really think they stand a chance." Even as our dear priest hunches down in front of this uncompromising deity, the cat casually glances, as if to say, "I see you're here for my daily performance. Shall we commence the ritual of me pretending to care?" All the while, there's a chance that the priest might think to himself, "Perhaps I should have just stuffed a bunch of cat toys in here instead. What was I thinking?" But let's transition smoothly, shall we?
After the offering, there comes the delightful cacophony of life in the temple. You hear joyous chants from mismatched crowds of utmost devotion, or utter comedy, depending on who's leading the chorus. Half the tunes are entirely off-key, reverberating against the temple's golden walls. You can almost envision a poor choir member spinning around, unintentionally sending the sacred incense tumbling off the altar. "Oops, that's definitely not in the worship manual," they mumble, while looking up to see if the cat reacted, anticipating a judgment that could shatter their fragile faith. And while these priests fawn over their divine furry companions, you must wonder, was there cat therapy involved at some point? Did they have a calendar marked for weekly relationship talks with their temple cats? So, Circe, I feel like you've been a little distant lately. What can I do to make you feel more appreciated? With an exaggerated flip of its tail, the cat promptly ignores the query, opting instead to chase an imaginary dust mote. Every question left on the floor, and the only response is the sound of silence, as our hapless priest realizes they're destined to become mere fish-bearers forever. And just like that, you find yourself nestled in the grandeur of ancient Egypt, a place where cats roamed supreme, wielding indifference like a crown. It's a comical, chaotic realm, filled with profound respect for the very beings who cherished their independence over evening snuggles. And you can't help but wonder if that's not a metaphor for life itself. So, as the sun sets over the temple, transforming the scene into a glow of divine absurdity, take a moment to realize this. While cats may be the ultimate existentialists, leaving humanity in a perpetual state of confused admiration, life in ancient Egypt is undeniably filled with sacred hilarity. If nothing else, remember that sometimes loving a cat means accepting that you are, in fact, merely supporting caste in their grand narrative of self-indulgence. Isn't that just slightly relatable? Chapter 5. The Trials of Mures Bellator, the Mouse King of the Warehouse. Hey guys, tonight we tumble into ancient Rome, a place as noisy as a toddler's birthday party, and home to some of the most unforgettable legends and lunch meets in history. Picture this: a dusty warehouse in the late 4th century BCE, vast and echoing like that one awkward conversation you'll never forget. The kind of place where one might find everything from oversized amphorae to the occasional disgruntled gladiator having a snack break. Tonight we witness something uniquely comical. A noble Roman legionary kneeling in reverence, not to a commanding general, but to a tiny mouse with a voice that's more squeak than speech. Now I invite you to ponder something deliciously absurd. What could possibly push a proud Roman soldier to kneel in such an inconceivable manner? Was there a mouse intervention? Did a comedy troupe of rodents arrange a coup to seize the respect of men clad in metallic bling? Did this mouse have exceptional negotiation skills with an impressive resume of past victories? I was the only rodent brave enough to sniff the cheese during an invasion. A real game changer. As you settle in for this delightful tale, dim the lights,
Maybe grab your favorite blanket and get comfy. Let your imagination wander to thoughts of mouse diplomacy and rodents living their best lives while humans scurry about trying not to trip over their own armor. Ever considered if mice hold secret councils to plot the conquest of your snacks? Or if they're just silently judging your life choices? I mean, who's truly in charge here? Congratulations. You've just awoken in a bustling Roman warehouse, surrounded by more confusion than a cat at a dog show. Let's talk about the scene unfolding around you. This legionary, decked out in armor that squeaks more than an ungreased hinge, kneels in the dust with an expression that could only be described as lost in a game of mouse chess. There he is, helmet slightly askew, looking every bit the part of a brave warrior, yet wholly caught up in a moment that feels distinctly like asking for a selfie with the world's smallest celebrity. And what's his offering? A generous piece of dried meat, imposing enough to impress. Well, let's be honest, even the most insouciant of mice. As the meat rolls into view, the striped mouse warrior, Mures Bellator, makes his entrance. He's no ordinary rodent. This is a mouse who struts around like he holds the lease to the entire warehouse. You can practically hear his inner monologue. Ah, at last. A tribute, as it should be. Bow before my unassuming size. Imagine the juxtaposition. You, a towering soldier with a shiny gladius, face to face with a creature who looks like he's just auditioned for a role in an epic fantasy. Mures, completely immune to Roman authority, sniffs the dried meat like a true culinary critic. Is this from the droughty end of the warehouse? No thanks. I prefer my protein from the royal pantry. It's a standoff, where every crumb carries the weight of history. Yet you can't help but wonder if a tiny gladiatorial contest is about to unfold. Meanwhile, the noise of the warehouse swirls around you. Clattering crates, echoes of legions training in the distance, and the faint hum of whispers wondering if they should be concerned about this unlikely alliance. What must the other soldiers think? Look at Marcus, on his knees for a rat, they might snicker. Guess he's finally flipped his helmet. The legionary's resolve begins to melt under the weight of Mures' undeniable charm. Could it be that this mouse carries the wisdom of the ages? You see, Mures might squeak, with a wisdom that rivals Socrates. The path to true power lies not in brute strength, but in knowing who has the tastiest snacks. Perhaps he will forge alliances with humans and teach them the art of a balanced diet. A mouse senator, perhaps. Imagine the debates. For the good of cheese, I say. But let's not forget the meat. A fine cuisine ought to please all. So, as the weary soldier offers a humble piece of meat, one cannot help but chuckle at how the mighty sees philosophy from a creature who, under normal circumstances, would be the center of a cat's dinner plans. There's a level of absurdity to this moment that speaks volumes. To kneel before those richer in spirit, no matter the size. And as Mures accepts the tribute with a flick of his tail, you envision the whispered debates held in mouse dens. Should we stage a rebellion against the cat kingdom? Or just stockpile snacks for the winter? Decisions, decisions. Finally, as you drift along this whimsical reverie, you realize the dark humor of it all. Here we are, in a world where life and death could pivot on a soldier's generosity towards a mouse. a creature that sometimes feels like an underappreciated relative at a family reunion. It's absurd. And as this unlikely friendship blossoms, let's not forget, in the grand tapestry of history, the smallest threads often weave the most amusing stories, leaving us with the question, who really rules the warehouse? The armored giant, or the self-proclaimed king of the crumbs? So here's to life's enchanting absurdities, waiting silently, like Muri's Bellator, at the edge of your consciousness. A life filled with equal parts glory and hilarity, as you softly slip deeper into dreams of tiny heroes and grand tributes. Chapter 6. The Indifferent Elegance of Athens, a Cat, and a Philosopher's Scroll. Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves in a place smoother than a philosopher's sweet talk, and as unpredictable as a cat on a rooftop. The tranquil Greek courtyard of Athens in the late 4th century BCE. Picture this scene as idyllic as your Instagram feed, only with fewer filters and more marble. Specifically that eye-catching geometric arch framing everything perfectly, like it's about to be featured in Architectural Digest, Ancient Greece edition. Now, let's take a moment to breathe in the fragrant air, which, if you're lucky, smells faintly of fresh olives and something they called air back then. But was air just a euphemism for the delightful aroma of well-cooked chickpeas mixed with the ever-looming scent of philosophical conversations? You might find yourself wondering, were ancient Greeks always this calm? Or did they have their fair share of caffeinated chaos too? Did philosophers argue over the best flavor of olives? Or was it more about who could convince the most cats that they were superior beings? As you settle deeper into this vivid Athenian moment, dim the lights, maybe sip something herbal if that's your vibe, and prepare to ponder. If you were a philosopher sitting in the courtyard with your scrolls, how long would it take before an elegant cat, strutting with an air of indifference, sauntered into your life and stole the show? Did they ever have cat fights over who owned the best sunshine spot? And if cats were truly the wisest philosophers of all, what would they argue about? Congratulations! You've just woken up in a sunny Athenian courtyard, the 4th century BCE, where the discussions are philosophical, the cats are elegant, and the scrolls are overflowing with ideas more delicious than the Mediterranean diet itself. Let's talk about what you can see, and more importantly, what you can't ignore. Right there, basking in the sun with all the grace of a floating cloud, is the finest feline you've ever laid eyes on. This is not just any cat, mind you. This is the kind of cat that's as poised as a Hellenistic statue, yet dismissive enough to make even Socrates question his place in the universe. Imagine the purring, synchronized with the scratching of quills on parchment, forming a meditative soundtrack of intellectual confusion. As you gaze upon this perfect creature, framed by the archway like an art installation, you can't help but think, what secrets does this cat hold? Does it understand the meaning of life? Or is it just plotting its next nap? The philosopher across from you, deep in thought, lifts his quill and jots down ideas that would surely cause future generations to nod contemplatively while simultaneously rolling their eyes. But little does he know, the real wisdom is held in the pause of this nonchalant feline. You can almost hear the noise of scholarly debates surrounding you. Is virtue better than happiness? Or perhaps more pressing, why do cats always act like they completely own us? Imagine philosophers urging each other to ponder not just existence, but the curious behavior of cats as they trample over scrolls and take long, unbothered naps in sunbeams. Now, let's not overlook the serious nature of your imagined philosopher in this delightful scenario. There's a chance that when he was supposed to be contemplating the essence of being, he was instead daydreaming about how nice it would be if just one of those orbs of fluff would decide to grace him with its presence. Maybe if I offer it a fish, it'll inspire the most profound wisdom ever recorded, he muses, fully unaware that the cat's idea of profound wisdom might revolve around choosing the warmest sunbeam over all existential matters. Of course, scroll writing in this serene setting comes with its own risks. Just imagine a stray piece of dried fish occupying the philosopher's shoelace, while the cat, sensing an opening, makes its move. The scrolls flutter violently in the summer breeze, like it's auditioning for the lead role in Aristotle, the musical. What will he write next? The cat observed, and through its elegant indifference, I realized I should reconsider my entire philosophy on existence. Clearly, it involves napping more and thinking less. And just when you're enjoying the luxurious absurdity of this, you glimpse another philosopher preparing to explain, quite earnestly, why cats are merely living representations of Apollonian beauty. Meanwhile, the very cat in question has stood up, stretched out like it just finished a marathon, and casually ambled over to a sun-soaked patch of stone with captivating disinterest in the antics of humans. Truly, these fools, it seems to say with just a flick of its tail, just don't grasp the importance of quality downtime. So there you sit, swathed in the warmth of the Athenian sun, where deep questions about life clash hilariously with everyday cat antics. You realize there's a golden nugget of truth buried beneath it all. Perhaps the secret to happiness lies not in debate or philosophy, but in the way this utterly indifferent feline stretches, yawns, and curls into a perfect ball to nap. And as the sun sets and the courtyard grows quieter, carrying the echoes of laughter and philosophy into the twilight, you could almost hear an ancient voice whispering, "Philosophers may ponder existence, but a cat? A cat has already figured it out." As you drift off into a world of spirited discussion between legumes and felines, take comfort knowing those weighty scrolls full of profound thoughts truly don't have all the answers. After all, in a world of questions, sometimes the best response is simply...
Chapter 7. The Raucous Voyage of the Feline Diplomat. Hey guys, tonight we embark on a journey more unpredictable than a cat's mood swings, and more full of surprises than your last family reunion. The dark waves of the Aegean Sea in the late 4th century BCE. Picture yourself aboard a rickety Phoenician trade ship, bobbing precariously like a cork in an angry bath filled with misplaced aggression and a hint of seaweed. Now, let's set the scene. You find yourself surrounded by sailors who look like they've just wrestled an octopus and lost, but are determined to set sail regardless. The air is packed with the rich scent of salt, fish, and perhaps even a lingering hint of desperation, as the captain tries to remember whether he left the coiled ropes on deck or attached to the cat napping amidst them. Yes, you heard that right. A scrappy, indifferent feline is nestled snugly on that coiled rope, perhaps dreaming of tuna feasts or planning its next diplomatic mission across the ancient world. Before we drift too far into the depths of absurdity, let's think for a moment about the challenges of being a 4th century BCE sailor.
Ever wondered what it would be like to navigate the tempestuous seas without GPS or even a decent map? You might as well be trying to find your way through a giant ball pit, blindfolded. There were no cruise ships with onboard karaoke. No quintuple espresso shots to fuel your morning determination. Only salty air and the constant threat of being catapulted into the ocean by a rogue wave or overzealous shipmate. So, as you brace yourself against the wooden hull, creaking and groaning like a senior citizen out for a stroll on a particularly windy day, imagine the life of sailors who were also, quite ridiculously, subject to the whims of a very judgmental cat. What surety do they have that this feline won't just leap into the sea, declaring it a personal mission to find a better ship? Did anyone ever stop to think about the plight of the cat? Coiled comfortably on the rope, eyeing them with all the disdain of a bureaucrat reviewing budget cuts. Is it planning its great escape, leaving you to wrangle with the confused sailors and their dubious knot-tying skills? Let's talk about the surroundings, shall we? The ship's deck is slick with seawater and the occasional fish guts. Great ambience, no. The sails flap overhead like a demented bird trying to take flight, while the brave crew attempts to keep the vessel upright, clutching whatever they can to avoid a very watery fate. Is it getting hot in here? Or is just the close proximity to the one sailor who seems convinced that anointing themselves in sardine oil is the secret to avoiding shark attacks? The man who once likely brought his lunch and decided it would be a great cologne for the day is unconsciously setting up the crew for a game of Guess That Smell. Above it all, amid the thrashing waves and chaotic shouting, the cat remains blissfully unfazed. It's the kind of reluctance to engage that would make Aristotle proud. This furry diplomat's already mastered the art of selective engagement. You can almost see the ship's crew exchanging looks of both admiration and annoyance. Yeah, that's right. While you work your fingers to the bone thinking of the best way to fish up dinner, I'll just be over here taking it easy, the cat seems to say as it stretches luxuriously across the rope, lapping up the salty breeze like it's sipping high tea at an ancient cafe. Wouldn't it be delightful if that cat could take a moment to give the crew some sage advice? Something along the lines of, "Listen, humans, maybe try napping more and worrying less. Clearly you've got a ship full of questionable decisions and half-baked ideas. Perhaps you should take a cue from my life motto. If it involves getting wet, I'm not interested." Ah, the clarity that could stem from a few wise purrs and a gentle flick of the tail. As the ship sways from side to side, your stomach adjusts. Think of it as a roller coaster, only without safety bars or a hint of fun. You begin to contemplate whether the lived experience of "Ahoy, matey!" is worth trading for the comfort of dry land and a couch that doesn't double as a trampoline of panic. You wonder, of the crew's chances of staying upright, who would be deemed the eventual captain? Someone who actually knows how to sail, or this impossibly chill cat that naps like it's prepping for world domination? And just as you're deep in thought, pondering the philosophical implications of a cat captaining a ship, one sailor trips on an errant rope and lands not so graciously on the deck. The crew erupts in laughter, their nightly entertainment delivered courtesy of a solid dose of slapstick humor, courtesy of the sea gods. As the cat observes this, it seems to take a moment to blink at the whole commotion before returning to its dream of jumping off the ship and taking its chances as an independent furry explorer. Congratulations. You've just woken up aboard a Phoenician trade ship in the Aegean Sea, where dreams of adventure and soothing naps aboard a wooden vessel might just lead to unforeseen chaos. Whether you're contemplating the best way to navigate both the turbulent waters below
and the absurdity of life above deck. Just remember that sometimes the true lessons of history are best learned from the most indifferent beings, the very cats that find ways to nap through it all. Chapter 8. Mummies, Cats, and Gold Bling. Oh my. Hey guys, tonight we wander down a corridor dustier than your attic, and more stacked with surprises than your grandmother's secret cookie jar. The dark, enigmatic Egyptian necropolis of the late 4th century BCE. Imagine yourself in a grand tomb, filled not with treasure chests, but with neatly stacked mummified cats wearing tiny gold jewelry. Yes, you heard that right. Mummified cats. If your idea of feline opulence involves your house cat demanding gourmet meals and designer catnip, buckle up. This is a whole new level of furry friends. Now, before we get too deep in the cat-laden shadows, let's contemplate what it might be like to live in ancient Egypt, amid the sweltering sun and hyperbolic devotion to the afterlife. Ever thought about how the weather there is like a sauna that suddenly decides to get even stickier? Or perhaps you've pondered the absolute absurdity of burying your beloved pet cat as if it was some form of eternal feline bling, destined for an afterlife filled with sunbeams and endless yarn balls. Just imagine the ancient Egyptians meticulously styling tiny little collars and hand-selecting the perfect accessories for their well-preserved companions. I can see it now. A room filled with mummified felines decked out like it's Fashion Week in the Valley of the Kings. But let's talk about what these lucky cats had going for them. Cloaked in silk-like wrappings, they enjoyed more bling than half of Hollywood's award shows. And why, you ask? Well, the sacred union of cats and ancient Egyptians was based on a thrilling concoction of reverence and joy. Cats weren't just pets. They were considered guardians of the home and protectors of both mice and spirits. How's that for cat supremacy? You might think you've got your cat acting like royalty while lounging on the couch, but these fuzzy tyrants were treated like demigods, complete with golden jewelry hiding in their fine linens. Speaking of hieroglyphics, and I promise I'm not just making fun of your favorite type of pasta, the ancients commended the cat for its dexterity and keen hunting skills. In a society where grain was currency and mice were the bandits of the pantry, having a cat was like cashing in your stocks. Imagine having a pet that not only looks adorable, but also doubles as your personal security detail. Talk about getting your money's worth. Except, as it turns out, the real deal wasn't the cat. It was the enormous necropolis where they tucked away the eternally blissful little furballs. Let's set the scene. You find yourself deep within the heart of the necropolis, surrounded by intricately carved stone walls adorned with cat-themed hieroglyphics, all reflecting the flickering glow of torchlight. Gaze around, and you'll see shelves piled high, crammed with mummified cats. A veritable feline high-rise. The air is thick with the dry scent of dust, blended perfectly with hints of ancient embalming oils, reminiscent of a long-forgotten scent marketing campaign. Eau de Mummy isn't exactly what you'd call a modern fragrance. But then again, this was the musty chic of its day. You can practically hear the whispers of the mummified cats as they plot their great adventures. "Oi, Gertrude," one seems to say. "Did you hear about the afterlife diet? It's nothing but tuna and sunbeams, and I'm ready to try it." Frankly, it's hard not to project some personality on these ancient moguls of the cat world. Did they trade whispers of gossip among their embalmers? You think Cleopatra's got the edge on fancy afterlife digs? Honey,
I have a whole team of priests making sure I'm the trendiest mummified feline around. Ever wonder what it's like for the embalmers tasked with preparing these regal furballs for eternity? One can only imagine the conversations that draped over them like those heavy ornate fabrics. Gerald, have you got the spices ready? No, not the normal ones. We're aiming for the gold seal of approval this time. You know, being an embalmer for cats had to be somewhat of a surreal job. Like being the designer for Fashion Week, but for critters that commanded more respect than most humans during dinner conversations. And while on that note of proper etiquette, imagine how these ancient craftsmen must have felt about those blinged-out kitties. Here they were, painstakingly wrapping up these creatures, only to doubt the wisdom of creating a runway-ready feline. Here's your tiny collar, Fluffy. Don't let it go to your head. But you know, it did go to their heads. After all, nothing says fantastic afterlife like being nestled into a grand tomb wearing gold bangles. Perhaps next to a pharaoh with more than a few questionable life choices. Now, having ventured through the delves of feline mummification, as well as the extravagant displays of ancient Egyptian culture, it's clear that these little creatures weren't just pets. You've entered into a realm where cats represent the pinnacle of both companionship and reverence. Draped luxuriously in linen, extending beyond the grave to bask in the glow of their legacy. You can almost hear their extinct yet spectacular purrs echoing through the tombs as they discuss the merits of eternal snacks. Next time your feline stretches lazily on your couch, just remember, in a former life, they were not only kings and queens among the living, but also gods in the afterlife. Congratulations, you've just woken up in a dimly lit Egyptian necropolis, where mummified cats sip cocktails of eternity and engage in clandestine conversations about modern-day mice management. Welcome to the land where cats truly ruled, both in life and beyond. Chapter 9. Horses, Blizzard, and the Dawn of Horsepower. Hey guys, tonight we're going to stroll through a frozen landscape so chillier than last week's leftovers that even your ex's cold shoulder is starting to look toasty in comparison. Welcome to the vast, windswept steppes of late 4th century BCE Mongolia. Yes, we're diving into a blizzard so fierce it makes your neighbour's holiday light display look like child's play. So pull on your snuggly blankets, crank up your heating system, though it'll barely scratch the surface of comfort, and let's prepare to embark on this frigid adventure. Before we trek through snowy chaos, let's consider what it must be like to endure the sheer determination of a lone Mongol horse, its broad head braving the elements like your cat does when you turn the vacuum on. Ever wonder what it's like trying to scrape together a meal in a blizzard with all the finesse of someone who forgot to buy groceries? Or perhaps ponder how a horse takes on a snowstorm without the luxury of a warm stable or a cozy blanket. Talk about enduring the elements like a true overachiever. Now, as we prepare to step back in time, let's park ourselves, figuratively of course, because parking in a blizzard is a one-way ticket to being stuck, alongside our equestrian friend. Picture this. You've just awakened in the middle of a vast, snowy steppe, where the wind howls like a banshee with a chip on its shoulder. Congratulations, you're now living your best life as a Mongol horse, navigating through shifting snow
with the kind of determination that would make a motivational speaker proud. Let's cast our gaze on this noble beast. Standing sturdily against the ponderous weight of winter, this horse resembles a furry, muscled fortress clad in a snow-white coat. Each hoof stamps down into the icy blanket like a brave warrior seeking that last delicious morsel of brittle grass, the sustenance equivalent of finding a forgotten slice of pizza at the back of your fridge. The cold gusts whip about that horse's ears, almost as if the universe itself is trying to whisper, "You sure you don't want to stay inside today?" Now, if you think your morning coffee is your best lifeline, try standing in 25-degree weather while scooping through slush. Imagine the crunch the grass makes under your mighty hooves as you slap through the icy crust, only to reveal the ultimate prize, last week's salad garnish. Winter survival skills really shine here, don't they? It's like trying to find a decent snack in a barren pantry while knowing full well the delivery guy's delayed. What a relatable struggle, right? But let's not forget, this horse is channeling its inner Viking as it forages, driven equally by the hunger for survival and probably a sprinkle of pride. Think about it. That horse embodies endurance like your grandmother does at family gatherings. Always just a little too much pride in finding something delicious to eat while dodging awkward conversations about when you'll finally settle down, or in horse terms, when you'll finally stop trying to survive this relentless cycle of winter. Meanwhile, the frigid winds tug at its thick mane, like your mother tugging at your heartstrings whenever she brings up family pressures. The horse's breath hangs in the air, swirling like fog, as if the universe is conducting a symphony of chilly exhalations, serenading the relentless cold that stretches as far as the eye can see. Each huff is a breath of determination, a reminder that even in the coldest of winters, life persists. What a riveting thought! Even the landscape around this resilient horse looks like a giant, monochromatic pancake, its silence broken only by the crunching of snow underfoot. The sheer beauty of the steppe, however devoid of life, stands as a testament to the harsh conditions that many more animals and humans endured in pursuit of their daily bread, or in this case, grass. It's like an extreme version of a winter hiking trip where you forgot to wear your warmest socks and your lunch is still sitting comfortably at home, probably mocking you. But let's talk companionship, because what really gives this horse its kick is the bond it shares with the Mongol riders charging across this wilderness. They are warriors, yes, but also friends, battling the elements together, just like two guys debating whether to share a single umbrella in a downpour. It's this camaraderie, forged through bitter wind and unforgiving terrain, that makes each gallop into the tempest an act of defiance against the frost. And here's the kicker. While today you might be warming your feet in front of a cozy fire, munching on popcorn and watching cat videos, these medieval hoof-clad companions are forging their legends in a world quite literally frozen in time. As you listen to their wild rides through the blizzards, picture them swaying back and forth, laughing at the perils of gales like you do whenever you play that "don't spill your drink in the passenger seat" game. So, next time you find yourself in frosty temperatures, heed the valiant Mongol horse trudging through the snow, scraping for survival and standing resolute against nature's whimsy. What can I say? Greatness comes with a side of frostbite. Now that you've witnessed the art of equine resilience in the depths of winter's frosty grasp, let's pause for a moment. Close your eyes. Imagine how it must feel against the wind, and perhaps let your thoughts gallop away to more comfortable realms.
maybe one where fluffy indoor horses deliver pizza with extra cheese. Because, honestly, who doesn't need that in their life? Chapter 10. Whispers in the Wind. The Bond Between Horse and Rider. Hey guys, tonight we're going to gallop into a world warmer than day-old pizza and a tad less dangerous than your last blind date. The sprawling steppes of late 4th century BCE Mongolia. Yes, we're diving into a landscape that's as vast and wild as your Uncle Larry's fishtails, complete with legendary warriors, tenacious steeds, and a sense of camaraderie that could rival your book club, if only your club didn't always devolve into debates over who spilled wine on the last novel. So, if you could do me a solid and prepare to go from couch surfing to equestrian adventures, it's time to dim the lights, grab a heavy blanket, and cozy up. Feel free to ignore any cat trying to commandeer your lap. I assure you the horse you're about to meet has far more noble aspirations than just napping on your sofa. But let me ask you, have you ever felt that overwhelming urge to whisper sweet nothings to your pet? Ever fantasized about what it would feel like to share a profound secret with a creature that's totally not judging your life choices, unlike that one friend who always raises an eyebrow? Or perhaps you've pondered how comforting it would be to have a partner so loyal that they'd charge into the great unknown without a second thought, despite the risk of getting utterly trampled. Picture it, a life that has an equal mix of danger, adventure, and awkward bonding moments on a chilly morning. Truly inspiring, isn't it? Congratulations. You've just awoken in 4th century BCE Mongolia on the edge of a fierce battle. You stretch out from your cozy slumber only to find yourself in the presence of colossal war horses and noble warriors bestowed with leather armor. And speaking of noble steeds, let's find ourselves in the hooves of a Mongol warrior gently whispering to his war mount. As the pale light breaks across the cold expanse, you can hear nothing but the soft whickers of the horses and the distant shimmer of armor, reminiscent of the sound you make when you drop your phone while trying to take a group selfie, minus the panicked cries of dismay, of course. The warrior stands there, his leather armor weathered and battle-worn, but also surprisingly stylish if you're into that rugged look. He leans slightly close to his horse, his breath rising in frosty clouds, creating a small weather system of intimacy amidst the sprawling vastness. The horse, eyes bright as the sun reflecting off the ice, seems aware of the weight of this moment, the sacred bond they share that defies the chilling elements and the impending chaos. Imagine for a second your own pet being the ultimate hype beast, knowing every single beat to the heroic music playing in the background of your mind as you prepare for battle. Come on, buddy, we got this. Just think of all the carrots you can eat after this. With each soft word, there's an unspoken promise hanging in the air. Air, loyalty, friendship, bravery. This is a rapport so deep, it would make even your sappy friend cry unashamedly in a rom-com. There's a timeless serenity in the air, only broken by the distant crescendo of war cries, growing ever closer, much like the sound of your neighbor's dog barking incessantly at 3 a.m. And this, dear listener, is where the beauty of chance-fueled destiny rides into the hearts of our warriors, accompanied by their steadfast mounts. Let's take a moment to envision the scene. The horse snorts vigorously, as though summoning the wind itself to join in their battle cry. You can feel the tremors running through its powerful legs, like the excitement coursing through you when Keanu Reeves makes a surprise appearance at a fan convention. The war mount's muscles ripple beneath its thick, flowing mane. A picturesque sight of raw power, much like that last slice of cake you know you shouldn't eat, but just can't resist. The warrior grips the reins with confident fingers, envisioning the gallop that would unfurl, merging man and horse into a single unbreakable force. Like that one time you and your best friend synchronized your tick-tock dance moves perfectly. The horizon stretches endlessly, shimmering beneath the rising sun, as you relish the sounds of nature, a cacophony of soft snorts, the whir of a few winged creatures, and perhaps the faint sound of a distant drum beats mimicking your heart's current tempo, as anticipation builds like the most suspenseful of cliffhangers. You might even wish for a steed broship bracelet to seal this moment, but alas, such treasures are a luxury for other eras. And then, as if cued by the universe itself, the moment arrives. With a gentle nudge and a knowing flick of the reins, the warrior ignites a charge so epic that even Netflix would need to add an entire subgenre to describe it. The landscape whirls into motion, melding into a tapestry of dust and fearlessness, reminding you that even amid chaos, the bond of friendship and unwavering trust can rise above all. So let's take a breath and imagine that this intense connection isn't just about the battle. No, it's about those morning rides. It's about waking up to a breathtaking vista of endless steps. It's about the joy of knowing that behind you stands a giant war mount, ready to gallop into history, sharing your anxieties as if they were the last crumbs of medieval bread on a rainy day. Because honestly, when it comes down to it, there's nowhere else you'd rather be than charging across the steppe with your best friend by your side. And hey, if life gets rough, remember, every mighty journey begins with a humble whisper. Hold that thought as we step beyond the blue horizon.
Chapter 11. Fermentation Follies and the Gastronomic Glory of Irag. Hey guys, tonight's adventure is going to be sharper than the cheese at a particularly dysfunctional family reunion. We're pulling up a cozy seat inside a Mongol yurt, where they're busy whipping up barrels of Irag, the noble fermented mare's milk. Yes, indeed, we're about to stumble into a world where the beverage of choice is less mocha latte and more sour surprise. And let me assure you, it's a magical concoction known to make you feel warm and fuzzy, or maybe just a bit dizzy, depending on how you handle your dairy. So, before I whisk you away to this adventurous abode, where the air is thick with tang and, well, horse pheromones, I have a favor to ask. If you could take a moment to like, subscribe, and possibly comment. Feel free to do it only if you actually enjoy this, of course. I'd be forever grateful. And don't worry, it only takes a second, like trying to persuade a toddler to eat their vegetables. Spoiler, it's not easy. Now then, dim the lights, snuggle under that blanket like it's a warm hug from your favorite aunt, and let's ponder some truly pressing questions. Ever wondered how a bunch of nomads managed to have parties with only dairy as the guest of honor? Do you think the horses were expected to contribute to the conversation? Or were they just there for moral support and a solid, hoof-stomping good time? What's the trick to getting your mare to relax enough to produce milk without worrying about a surprise visitor dressed as a Viking? I would imagine the whole process could make your cat's uninvited parties look tame in comparison. Congratulations. You've just woken up in 4th century BCE Mongolia, nestled comfortably inside an impressively spacious yurt. Now, at first glances, it seems like a fancy tent. But believe me, you are standing in the very heart of Mongolian cultural tradition. An architectural masterpiece. Unless, of course, you're someone who thinks a condo with an open floor plan is the pinnacle of elegance. The yurt is ornately decorated, with colorful felt hanging beside you, like a much less dramatic version of an art exhibit. If art featured horsehair and didn't mind a bit of mud tracking in from the outside. The atmosphere is perfumed, with an unmistakable scent that dances somewhere between fresh hay and an enthusiastic barnyard. Just to your left, a family is gathered around several barrels filled with the prized Irag, like the mythical liquid gold of the Asian steppes. The familial vibe here is practically a sitcom scene. Imagine a modern family gathering, only instead of fast food, it's fermented mare's milk. Delicious, right? Now, let's talk about that Irag for a moment. Fermentation isn't just an art form here. It's a matter of survival. The nomads have perfected it, like it's some kind of ancient ritual, akin to yoga for the digestive system. They know the exact method. Collect the milk, add a touch of magic, and by magic, I mean that secret blend of artisanal weirdness. Let it sit and bubble like your stomach after a bad burrito, and voila! You have the drink that not only quenches thirst, but also boosts morale. I mean, what's coffee when you can sip on soured milk that's basically a historical equivalent of kombucha, minus the hipster label? But let's dive deeper into the delightful chaos of this family scene. Imagine your average Mongolian family, all gathered around the barrels, chattering fervently, probably leaning back in their cushy chairs, sporting the most gloriously colorful hats your Pinterest board could dream of. It's a social hub, and if you listen closely, you might just hear the age-old debate as lively as a game of Russian roulette played with shot glasses. Is it better chilled or at room temperature? Should we add a touch of honey or just let the sourness take over? The stakes are high, dear listener. In a place where survival hinges on camaraderie, every sip of Irag isn't just a refreshment, it's a unifying experience, possibly with even more emotional nuances than your cousin's annual Christmas speech. You can practically feel the bond deepen as they share cups, swaying between laughter and mock-serious critiques of the barrel's quality. Meanwhile, there might be a vaguely confused horse standing nearby, wondering when they'll actually be invited to the fun, as the humans guffaw and toast to their own existence with an unfazed dedication. Ever seen equine eyes roll? As the family works their fermenting magic, it's hard not to draw parallels to your own life. A series of frenzied attempts to keep the stressors of the modern world at bay while navigating the complexities of social gatherings. The mixing of milk and cultures here can take you back to your own the next time you're trying to combine Sunday brunch with a vegan, gluten-free potluck aimed at impressing your health-conscious friends.
Spoiler alert, it's never quite as harmonious as the Mongolian version. So as the air fills with the promise of rejuvenation, be it the tangy fumes of Irog or the humor laced through every joke about the neighbor's terrible horse-riding skills, remember this. Even in the randomness of fermented mare's milk, there lies a beautiful truth about connection, survival, and laughter woven together through the ages. And while you ponder your own quirky relationship with fermented foods and horses, know this. In the world of ancient Mongolia, it's less about the drink and more about the joy of sharing it, even if it means explaining to your friend at a party that yes, imbibing fermented horse milk is a dance with history you wouldn't want to miss. So raise your fantastical glass, or just that mildly stale water bottle, and toast to adventure, camaraderie, and the wild, strange journey that life has to offer. Now, let's gallop onward and see what other delightful eccentricities history has in store for us. Chapter 12, The Equine Kinship of the Brave. Hey guys, tonight we're saddling up for a tale more whimsical than a horse wearing a party hat. Picture this. It's the late 4th century BCE, and we're diving into the heart of the steppes, where the air is fresher than your cousin's homemade cookies, and certainly more earthy. Welcome to a world where being buddies with a horse isn't just adorable. It could very well mean the difference between life and death in battle. Now, before we trot off into history, I have a tiny favor to ask. If you're enjoying our little jaunts through time and absurdity, do me a solid. Like, subscribe, and maybe drop a comment. Only if you actually enjoy this, of course. I want your genuine vibes, not just obligatory clicks like Aunt Martha insisting you try her mystery casserole. So dim those lights and tuck into your blankets like you're preparing for a thrilling episode of Survivor Bed Edition. Have you ever questioned how intimate a relationship with a horse can get? Do horses respect those who stroke their necks affectionately, or do they just think it's a form of sustainable petting? What secret whispers do they share with one another about their human companions? Are there horsey gossip columns circulating in the past? Did you hear about Genghis's new mane conditioner? Congratulations! You've just arrived in the midst of a Mongol warrior's camp on a crisp, star-studded night. The smell of leather and saddle soap fills the air, and amidst the quiet clumsiness of the encampment, you spot a tired warrior dismounting from his well-traveled steed, a horse that has carried him through countless battles, and perhaps a random scuffle over the best spots to graze. Our tired hero slowly kneels, feeling the warmth radiating from the horse, engaging in a moment more heartfelt than a reunion episode of any long-running sitcom. With a slice of felt, he lovingly wipes the sweat from the horse's neck. It's a move performed with such grace and intimacy that you almost expect a dramatic musical score to swell up in the background. To this warrior, rubbing down his horse isn't just a chore. It's an ancient ritual, one filled with the profound kinship between man and beast. After all, this horse isn't just a mode of transportation. It's a loyal companion, a dear friend, possibly even the best listener this warrior could ever hope for.
Can you imagine the conversations? So, about that last battle, what did you think of my battle cry? Too much? Too little? Now, as you settle into this vivid slice of life, let's consider the craftsmanship here. This isn't just a simple, stable relationship. This is akin to heartfelt self-care on an equine scale. Think of it as the ancient version of a cuddle session, complete with massage oils made from secret herbal formulas. And let's be real, there probably was a feisty mint leaf involved. The warrior's hands glide smoothly over the horse, coaxing out the sweat like a parent coaxing a toddler to swallow broccoli, filled with equal parts tenderness and sheer determination. Come on, buddy, just a little more. You want to be as tough as the guys in that next cavalry charge, right? The gentle strokes are not mere grooming. They are infused with the hope that the horse carries his spirit into the fray, lending it courage and endurance. You got this, pal. Remember, just a little sweat, a few dashes of fear, and we're golden. While you fall deeper into this moment, reflecting on the connection built on mutual trust and the occasional awkward glance exchanged between man and horse, it's hard not to draw parallels to modern-day life. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to pretend your pet is actually understanding your woes? How about leaning on a cat while discussing your alarming Netflix binge habits? Welcome to ancient Mongolia, where every grooming session doubles as a therapy hour. As the warrior begins to hum a tune while scrubbing the horse's neck, the melancholy melodies float on the night air, a combination of warrior pride and an undeniable whimsicality only truly understood in a world of horses and heartfelt camaraderie. It's like background music in an epic film, where the hero is also the main character in an amusing buddy cop film, complete with blooper reels before the credits roll. The sounds of the camp echo around you, distant murmurs of laughter, punctuated by thuds of horse hooves, as warriors bond over tales of valor and ridiculous mishaps involving lost shoes and adventurous journeys to find the best pastures. Every story told spins a web of hilarity that only the seasoned riders, both human and horse, would understand. Even in the dead of night, amongst flickering campfires and the occasional neigh, mysteries abound. You gaze upon the horse, wondering if he's secretly penning down his memoirs. So it turns out I didn't just face the fiercest battle. I also had to put up with my human's questionable dance attempts while proclaiming our victory. Imagine the tales he would tell at the local equine open mic night. And folks, did you know Bruno here thought he could beat me in a foot race? Spoiler, I let him win. As you immerse yourself in this vivid tapestry of sweat, trust, and gentle humor, remember this. In moments of camaraderie, whether between a weary warrior and his loyal steed, or during those late-night heart-to-hearts with fuzzy companions, it's less about the action and more about the affection. Because, dear listener, whether they were galloping into battle or just enjoying a quiet evening, these moments encapsulate the wild, strange journey of companionship through history. So let's ride on into the next exciting chapter, where even more quirks and antics await us. Chapter 13. Bareback Shenanigans and Trusty Steeds. Hey guys, tonight we're galloping into a tale wilder than a rodeo clown at a cat convention. Picture this. It's the late 4th century BCE, and we're plopping down smack in the middle of Mongolia,
where the grass grows taller than your average neighborhood fence, and your main social event is not a barbecue, but galloping into the horizon with your best equine friend. Can you say ranch life gone inexplicably noble? Now, if you're enjoying our jaunt through the annals of bizarre history, do me a solid. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Only if you actually enjoy it, of course. I'm not asking for obligatory thumbs up, like your barber suggests, just a little off the top. Your honest vibes make this gig worthwhile. So dim the lights, toss in a fan if you're feeling fancy, and sink into your blankets like a human burrito. Ever find yourself wondering how a child could manage a horse without getting launched into the next time zone? Or how many awkward falls it takes to build an actual relationship with a horse? Were mongooses ever consulted on horse care practices? Hey, Mr. Snake Slayer, mind giving tips on how to ride a four-legged giant without landing face first in the dirt? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 390 BCE, where the grass is green, the wind is strong, and children are probably plotting their next attempt to ride the neighborhood's wildest horse, Sparky. Here, among the expansive steps, watch as our story unfurls. Let's talk about an everyday spectacle. Picture a sprightly Mongol child, all limbs and laughter, like a baby deer caught in a particularly upbeat episode of Dancing with the Stars. He stands there, grinning at an equally youthful horse, who's probably contemplating the meaning of life, or at least which patch of grass to munch on next. You see, this little dynamo has a rope around Sparky's neck, and for him, the entire world is his playground, canvas, and potential storytelling venue. Now, mounting bareback is more than just a thrilling child's game. It's the beginning of an incredible relationship, one grounded in trust, much deeper than relying on your best friend not to reveal your most embarrassing moments at brunch. As our little equestrian Houdini scrambled up onto Sparky's back, a gentle shift in weight spoke volumes. Not a single ounce of force is needed, just the delicate dance of trust between child and beast. As you breathe in the scent of the open grassland, fresh and earthy, quite unlike your aunt's casserole from last Thanksgiving, you realize this isn't merely about riding. This is an adventure in communication that transcends the silences we often find ourselves in. Like those awkward pauses that follow when someone asks how your week was, and you respond with a blank stare. You can almost hear the conversation between boy and horse unfolding. Hey, Sparky, ready for another round of galloping into oblivion? And poor Sparky, who's been conditioned to respond not just to weight shifts, but the boy's infectious enthusiasm, nods along as though saying, "Absolutely. Just keep those tree branches out of my eyes, would you?" Let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer absurdity of it all. Can you imagine a modern kid trying to explain this camaraderie? "Mom, I learned trust with a horse today, right after I learned how to scale the neighbor's fence using a chair and a jumpy trampoline," while the child smooths his hands along Sparky's neck. That action is akin to the ultimate bonding exercise. The horse in turn snorts approvingly.
They've struck an unbreakable deal here. Less like a business transaction and more like, I bring the laughter, you bring the oats, and we both just have to avoid the muddy puddles. Can we talk about the wonderful absurdities here? It's like discovering a niche hobby that both you and your pet hamster enjoy. You mean I can teach you to play fetch, and you don't mind my singing? Let's go pro! Horses, it seems, were less high maintenance than toddlers, mostly because they didn't require juice boxes or bedtime stories, just a generous dash of trust and the light hand. Meanwhile, other children in the camp engage in more traditional activities, like crafting arrows or building tiny catapults, all essential skills for the world of ancient combat. But none of that holds a candle to the bond these two have forged. After all, what's more educational than developing a relationship that can lead you into the depths of adventure, and possibly a future a few centuries down the line, as cavalry and cavalry tactics flourish in the legendary exploits of Alexander the Great. As our young rider navigates the pock-marked terrain, you can almost hear Sparky thinking, yes, my friend, we'll be charging into battle and forging history. Or maybe just heading back for some lunch, but who's counting? The laughter is present in whispers of the camp, punctuated by muffled neighs as other young riders take notice of the feather-light friendship unfolding before them, beginning to realize it's not merely about mastering riding techniques, but embracing their quirks. You find yourself wanting to lean in closer, imagining these youngsters sharing their tales over roasted goat's leg. So, did you see how I managed to ride bareback without even a single fall? And Sparky? He didn't even flinch when a squirrel crossed our path. In this rolling panorama of innocence, trust, and a sprinkling of absurdity, you might just discover that the strongest foundation for legendary relationships is built upon not only memories, but the gentle weight of shared laughter, steering into the bright horizons of countless adventures. So as we continue this whimsical journey, hold on to your saddles, dear listener. Our next chapter promises even more surprises and hilarious encounters as we delve deeper into the historical oddities that made life wonderfully unpredictable in those ancient times. Chapter 14, The Charge of the Cavalry Cows. Hey guys, tonight we're diving into something bouncier than a trampoline at a high-stakes squirrel jumping contest. The fierce world of Mongol cavalry in the late 4th century BCE. You might be asking, what on earth does this have to do with my life today? Well, buckle up, because if you're ready to see how charging horsemen inspired a little fellow named Alexander the Great, and how he turned four-legged friends into four-legged tanks, you're in for a wild ride. But first, a quick favor. If you're enjoying our stroll through the whimsically absurd past, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment, but only if you feel inclined. No pressure here. I'm not asking for hearts, like your grandma asking if you've finally settled down. Just good vibes, people. So, let's set the mood. Dim the lights, switch on a fan if you're living the high life, and tuck yourselves into bed like a couple of plush burritos, ready for a cozy hibernation. Do you ever wonder how ancient warriors managed to ride into battle without losing their lunch, or their pants? Or how they trained their horses to stop on a dime and spin as quickly as your ex during an awkward conversation?
And what on earth did they do when a horse sneezed mid-charge? Spoiler, it's not what you think. Congratulations, you've just woken up in Mongolia, circa 390 BCE, where the grass is taller than your average electric bill, and the horses are about to put on a show that would make modern rodeo champions weep. Imagine a landscape that stretches endlessly, filled with wild winds that couldn't care less about your plans, swaying grass whispering sweet nothings to the earth below, and a cacophony of galloping hooves echoing through the valleys. Let's talk about the Mongol cavalry, shall we? You'd think being a horseman was all about looking good in leather and mastering the lost art of spaghetti on horseback, which I'm pretty sure they didn't do, but it sounds fun. The truth is, these warriors were the unsung heroes of speed and strategy. Imagine a wedge formation come charging at you, long spears glistening in the sun like a bad taste jewelry commercial. They storm the battlefield, each rider perfectly synchronizing their movements like a military ballet. If ballet involved flinging a spear and inevitably contesting with the occasional wayward horse sneeze that sent half the formation rudely off course. Picture this. The air crackles with an energy that resembles the moment you realize your Wi-Fi is down, but with much less coffee and far more fur. Each horse, trained to be as responsive as a barista on a Monday morning, knows when to halt abruptly, spin with the grace of a ballet dancer, and return to charging like a caffeinated jackrabbit. What's more romantic than a horse and rider in perfect harmony? Well, riding into combat while performing various cavorting antics also could qualify, I guess. Imagine the squeaky sound of leather saddles mixed with the whickering of determined steeds, as if they collectively decided, today we write history, or at least try not to fall on our faces. Can you picture it? Hooves pounding against the ground, rumbling like the sound check for the loudest rock concert. Only, instead of guitars and sweat-soaked fans, we have sweaty warriors and charging steeds, with a sprinkling of hysteria, as horses occasionally attempted dance moves that could rival your uncle at weddings. At this point you might be thinking, what about a snack break during the fray? Like, cavaliers need fuel too, right? Oh, trust me, snacking mid-battle was a planned event as necessary as laxatives are after a family holiday feast. While charging down the enemy, you could almost hear their whispered prayers for a snack. Survival is an absolute must. But did anyone pack the trail mix? As the cavalry, led by warriors who probably had an overzealous amount of trust in each other's abilities, swept through enemy lines, you can almost sense that tenuous blend of fear and excitement in the air. It's not unlike the thrill one feels when making a last-minute move at a crowded family gathering. Oh boy, here comes Uncle Dave with the karaoke machine. Will we escape unscathed? Only time will tell. And let's think about the training these horses underwent. Would the modern equivalent be enrolling your dog in a how to behave during awkward situations class? Because I can assure you, precision training on horseback would blow dog obedience to the moon. Stop on a dime, spin 180 degrees. Now tell your horse that they wouldn't be allowed in, say, the neighboring kingdom's prestigious Haymarket without a proper invitation. So as the dust clears and the echoes of galloping hooves fade into the distance, know that these Mongolian horsemen were not just riders. They were the ingenious architects of military strategy, transforming wearied pastures into legendary battlegrounds, and literally
trotting their way into the annals of history. They embodied the essence of life, adventure, trust, and a sprinkling of sheer ridiculousness. Are you feeling inspired yet? Or perhaps just eager to see what other delightful chapters await? Because our journey doesn't end here. Oh no. The next leg of this whimsical trek through ancient history will reveal even more twisty tales of bravery, laughter, and flat-out absurdity that'll leave you both chuckling and dreaming as you drift into slumber. Chapter 15. The Healing Smoke of the Horse Whisperer. Hey guys, tonight we're venturing into a world that's more mystical than a cat deciding it suddenly needs to sit on your keyboard while you're working. The fascinating realm of ancient shamanism and horse healing in the late 4th century BCE. So grab your cozy blankets, dim the lights, and prepare to be whisked away to a time where the only doctors were also part-time magicians, and everyone had to pray a bit harder when their horse came down with a case of the sniffles. Because let's be real, you don't want your noble steed down for the count during a big battle. Before we trot along on this magical journey, could you do us a solid? If you're enjoying our historical roller coaster, where every twist and turn is fueled by the absurdities of the past, tap that like button, subscribe, and maybe even drop a comment about the strangest animal remedy you've heard. But only if you're feeling inspired. No pressure. Simply good vibes, fam. Oh, and before we lean into the thick smoke of religious rituals, have you ever wondered how seriously people took their animal companions back in the day? Like, did they have their own version of puppy psychics to chat with their horses? Or maybe they held real pony spa days involving enchanted oils and ground-up unicorn horn. And seriously, what do you think a shaman's workshop smelled like? Is there a chance it involved a lot of eau de horses, equine edition, mixed with the delightful aroma of burnt herbs? Congratulations. You've just woken up somewhere between the steppes of Mongolia and the backdrop of ancient Macedon, where the number of horses equals the number of unusual remedies for their ailments. The sun is rising, illuminating a realm filled with tall grass, galloping steeds, and a shaman dressed with more flair than an overzealous prom king. As you inhale, you find the air is thick with the fragrance of hay, warm earth, and a hint of, well, something that could probably use a good scrub or two. Now, let's talk about our shaman friend. Picture a figure more decked out than your aunt's best holiday sweater, complete with vibrant blue silk kadags fluttering in the breeze. He stands before a frail horse, whose mind seems to be wandering in and out of a dream, perhaps contemplating the great questions of the universe. What's my purpose? Will I ever become a majestic war horse? As the shaman ties a strip of silk to the mane of the equine patient, his hands move with the grace of someone trying to impress at a crafts fair, while secretly hoping no one notices he's just winging it. With a deep breath, he takes a puff from his sacred herbs, the smoke drifting through the air like a confused butterfly in a thunderstorm, swirling, dipping, and circling in mystical patterns that probably made the horse question its last meal. What's that? You thought incense was a New Age invention? Ha! Ancient. Cultures were ahead of the trends, crafting their own signature fragrances for the spiritual, while simultaneously mastering the art of making horses
feel like they were getting the VIP treatment. Imagine this scene. Beneath the shaman's breath of smoke, a symphony of sounds arises. Whickering horses, distant rustling of bushes, and the faint sound of a breeze that seems to be whispering secrets from the sky. But don't let that serene atmosphere fool you. Just like a toddler with a sugar rush, horses could have their own drama. Oh no, there goes Brutus again, trying to nibble on the shaman's favorite herbs. Easy, Brutus, those are for your own healing, not a salad bar. As the shaman continues to weave his magic, you might picture him muttering sweet nothings mixed with a few powerful incantations. I mean, you never truly know what could be lurking under a horse's skin, right? A hidden talent for Broadway, a burgeoning interest in the culinary arts, or maybe just some pesky, colicky discomfort. Who knows? All you can do is hope the shaman has the right combination of herbs and silk to sort that out before Brutus decides to audition for Horses Got Talent. And oh, did I mention the blue silk kadog? The shaman doesn't just slap it on there. No. This bright strip is as symbolic as your uncle's insistence that his famous potato salad is a family recipe. In the Mongolian culture, blue signifies the great endless sky, a blessing for a horse's recovery. So, while the poor horse may be having an existential crisis, at least it's decked out in royal flair. Ah, there's something oddly calming about watching a shaman fuss over a horse. Like your kid's art project that just screams, "Yes, my castle has 30 doors and 17 windows, all visible from the drawbridge." The shaman, with his own otherworldly flair, commands the situation, channeling energy as if he's attempting to power a small village with sheer will and a whispered prayer. May the spirits carry you swiftly toward better times, O horse of fluctuating temperaments. As the rituals commence, and the thick smoke clings to the horse like a cozy blanket of healing vibes, there is a moment of shared connection that almost feels palpable. It's that deep interaction that transcends languages, professions, and frankly, even the absurd notion of amateur pet therapy sessions. Because at the end of the day, who doesn't want to feel a little of that unrehearsed sincerity arising from a horse's recovery? So just like our dedicated shaman, as absurdly charming as he might be, we now find ourselves weaving through this rich tapestry of history. What began with a horse and a bit of silk has unfolded into a saga of friendships, healing, and a testament to the lengths we go for those we love, even if they happen to have 4 legs and an appetite for grass. And who knows? Maybe we'll gather round again to fawn over tales of Alexander's legendary exploits next. You won't want to miss it, unless, of course, you'd prefer to get some rest. In which case, sweet dreams of galloping horses, fluffy clouds, and the occasional while you were sleeping ridiculousness are perfectly acceptable. Sleep tight, my friends. Chapter 16. A Night on the Steppe with Galloping Dreams. Hey guys, tonight we're settling into something so peaceful it makes a lukewarm cup of decaf coffee seem like a thrilling roller coaster ride. A tranquil night on the vast steppe, under the wide open skies of the late 4th century BCE. Imagine a place where the whispers of the wind provide the only soundtrack,
and the only decision you have to make is whether to snuggle closer to your yurt or to that pile of hay that's way more comfortable than it looks. But before we ride off into this cozy historical sunset, could you do us a favor? If you're enjoying our journey through time, where every tapestry of history is stitched with the occasional laugh and an eyebrow raised, you can't make this up. Hit that like button, subscribe, and if you're feeling particularly inspired, drop a comment about the oddest place you've ever fallen asleep. But only if you actually enjoy this. No pressure to start an epic debate about ancient naps. Now, let's get you prepped for this emotional stroll through the night. Dim the lights, set up a fan for that breezy ambience, and find the most comfortable spot to settle in. Picture this. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live under a star-studded sky, without the vibrant glow of your neighbor's porch light? Or to know just how truly one with nature you could become, when the idea of indoor plumbing is still a few centuries away? What's the deal with sleeping just a few arm lengths away from a grazing herd of horses? Do you think they take their midnight snacks quietly? Or is it more like a 2 a.m. buffet brawl? Congratulations! You've just woken up on the sprawling steps, feeling the cool grass beneath you, and perhaps a little too aware of the horse that keeps snorting nearby, as if sharing secrets with the nighttime stars. The yurt, your humble abode, is cozy and warm, full of that earthy smell reminiscent of your quirky uncle's attic, mingled with a hint of horsehair and a dash of fresh hay. As the comforting darkness folds over the land, let's take a moment to soak in this picturesque scene. The horses, strong, noble creatures, are out there grazing and whickering, as if they're engaged in intense discussions about existentialism, or perhaps simply debating who has the best mane in the herd. You can picture them now, all hipster horse poets, murmuring lines like, "To equine or not to equine? That is the question." What a mysterious life they lead. The night sky above you seems to stretch on forever, littered with stars brighter than Alexander's ego during a victorious parade. Speaking of which, this place is as far removed from the political drama of Macedon as a hermit crab is from a high-powered boardroom meeting. Out here, it's just you, the rhythmic sound of hooves crunching grass, and the gentle swaying of the yurt, which is as comforting as napping in your grandma's embrace, with an added healthy dose of rustic charm. Suddenly, you feel a gust of wind, and it carries with it the distinct aroma of hay, mixed with a curious hint of, well, was that the leftover essence of horse snacks from earlier? You may ponder this. What would ancient snack time have looked like? Imagine the horse's version of popcorn, some crunchy hay, supplemented with extravagant herbs, while they all gather around a campfire to discuss the latest exploits in horse drama. That would truly be horseplay at its finest. Let's get a little more personal. If you had the ability to communicate with these majestic creatures, do you think they'd have pithy opinions on the state of the world? Why, yes, human. The state of the world is fascinating. But can we talk about my mane? I think it could use more sparkle. Your imagination wanders, pondering the deep wisdom of an ancient horse that might say, "Grass is greener on the other side, but have you tried rolling in mud? Game changer." You bring your attention back to the family snoring softly in their yurt. Yes, the sounds of gentle breaths and occasional snorts provide an oddly soothing symphony. Picture the parents, draped in animal furs like majestic sleeping bears, while the kids are sprawled around like dropped marbles, blissfully unaware that their future battles will be over who gets the biggest piece of the morning bread. Perhaps tonight, in their horse-filled dreams, they're leading an army of equestrians far braver than they ever hoped to be. The wind picks up, humming through the horsehair ropes of the yurt, creating a melody so soothing it could qualify as a lullaby. You feel the embrace of the land itself, lulling you further into relaxation, cradling you like one of those plush support pillows that promise to make you feel like a royal while you sleep. Meanwhile, the horses continue their midnight delicacies, showcasing their discerning tastes. No, not that clump of grass. Get me the organic, free-range kind. And just as you start to delve deeper into the dream world, a place of galloping steeds, fine tapestry rugs, and mild-mannered storms, the realization hits you. This realm is a fluid blend of comfort and ongoing comedy. The absurdity of it all, weaving between the peace of the steppe and the riotous imaginings of the equine life around you, leaves you giggling softly to yourself, a chuckle slipping onto the wind like a wayward leaf in autumn. So settle in, my friend. Let the rhythm of nature and the absurdity of horse society whisk you gently into a dreamy state. Who would have thought a family's herd of horses, a yurt, and a sprinkle of historical charm would combine to paint such a cozy and humorous tableau? Maybe even the horses are chuckling to themselves in their sleep, dreaming of the next time they'll sway gracefully into your heart. Embrace the warmth, the laughter, and the beauty of this nocturnal dance with history. Sweet dreams.
Oh, wait!
Chapter 17. The Morning Routine of Mace Not So Dramatic. Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves wandering into a realm more complicated than folding a fitted sheet. The Macedonian palace courtyard at sunrise, where structure meets absurdity. Imagine a place where noble sons, clad in confused expressions and tunics that could only be described as early bedtime chic, are elbow-deep in weapons, messages, and the daily drama of learning how to be future kings without actually getting killed in the process. But first, a friendly reminder. If you're enjoying this foray into mildly riveting history, hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment about the most bizarre workout you've ever attempted. Did it involve trying to lift your dog while doing burpees? We're all ears, but only if you're into sharing such riveting tales. Now, dim the lights, kick on your favorite fan, for that authentic, ancient breeze ambience, and get cozy. Because let's face it, who doesn't want to feel like royalty while cozying up with a luxurious blanket? Picture this. What would it be like waking up with the fragrant aroma of breakfast? No, not eggs and bacon, but rather the not-so-distant scent of grilled goat. Does it get you craving a morning burger, or inspire you to dodge horses on your way to the bathroom? Congratulations. You've just woken up in the late 4th century BCE, surrounded by the persistent clang of swords and the collective ambition of young men who, quite frankly, are still figuring out the difference between ruling
and being really bossy. As the sun peeks shyly over the horizon, your eyes adjust to the scene. Imagine this. To the left, a group of paid Basileus royal pages, young noblemen in training, practicing their stoic expressions as if holding a world record for most intense gaze at nothing in particular. As the sun rises higher, the air fills with the sound of hasty footsteps. They're not quite running yet, seeing as they're all trying to balance impeccable postures while fetching weapons. Yes, you heard that right. They're basically the ancient world's original delivery boys, except instead of pizza, it's swords. And instead of tip money, there's the promise of not getting beheaded by their meticulously donned helmets. Discomfort abounds as the boys scramble, clutching their spears like toddlers, gripping their favorite toys at the grocery store. You can practically hear their inner dialogue. If I trip over this sword one more time, I might just feign a case of sworditis. Now, let's talk about their morning routine. You might assume breakfast is something dignified, but in this courtyard, it's more like a competition to see who can eat the fastest before someone else steals their last piece of honeyed bread. Ever wondered what happens when someone coughs at the breakfast table? It's not just a light pause. It's an epic battle for survival. So sorry, but if I cough into your honey, I expect you to still eat it. Fair's fair. You might think their days would begin with the ceremonial pouring of ambrosia or the gentle strumming of lyres playing soothing melodies. Nope. Instead, picture a cacophony of shouting, clanging, and the occasional unintentional horse kick. Do you feel that rising tension in the palace? It's like waiting for the plot twist in a soap opera, but instead, it's just a group of young nobles figuring out who can string a bow without accidentally shooting their foot. As they learn their craft, let's not forget the ever-watchful eyes of their mentors, those battle-hardened veterans who still haven't figured out the concept of personal space. You'd think they'd be focused on refining their students' skills, but instead, they channel their inner grouchy grandpa. Back straight! Shoulders back! Stop picking your nose! No future king does that! Truly inspiring stuff. And while we're at it, let's talk clothing choices. Imagine vibrant tunics made from fabrics as rough as your neighborhood dog's tongue. If you thought the scratchy wool was the worst of it, think again. Add to that a collection of sandals that make you question how the ancient Greeks survived summers. It's like walking around in medieval flip-flops on a trampoline made of bee stings. Now, the etiquette lessons. Every noble young lad learns the fine art of how not to trip over your own feet while bowing, and the ceremonial offering of a gold piece that might secure your position with King Philip II. There's a lot riding on these friendly contests of dignity. Bravo! Don't you just love how, in addition to learning how to hold a spear, they now have to avoid embarrassing themselves in front of all the noble ladies watching? As a warm breeze sweeps through the courtyard, it ushers with it a delightful hint of sweat mingling with the smell of burning meat from the kitchen. A reminder that royal doesn't always mean elegant. Envision a young lad behind the kitchen staple of roast goat, trying to look cool while simultaneously trying not to set his tunic on fire as he flips a skewered chunk of meat. It's hard to drum up confidence when you're outclassed by a herd of goats, and that's the start of your day in the Macedonian palace. An arena where young noblemen juggle weapons, whispers of kingship, and the perennial threat of turning their sandals into a fashion statement
that could win best dressed in a goat pen. These poor lads might not know it yet, but their real education lies far beyond the battlegrounds. It's in the art of dodging awkward moments with the grace of a goat, and heaven knows they'll need it. As the day unfolds, and the sun rises higher above the Macedonian hills, the palace courtyard buzzes with the dreams of tomorrow, because kingship may just mean never getting the last piece of baklava. So, relax, breathe in deeply, and channel your inner noble. We're on a comedic journey that's sure to leave you chuckling into your pillow as you drift deeper into sleep, knowing kingship has never looked quite so awkward. Continue with the next segments as your dreams take center stage. Chapter 18: Alexander's Amazing Friends. Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a world more complex than trying to assemble Swedish furniture in the dark. The late 4th century BCE, where friendship, bravery, and a dash of chaos melded together in a way that would make your high school lunchroom look like a yoga retreat. Imagine this. You've got a brooding, youthful Alexander the Great, surrounded by his loyal sidekicks, the Hetae Aroi, young men who could double as both your best friends and your personal cavalry, faithfully riding into battle despite the constant threat of faceplants and noble pratfalls. But before diving headfirst into this adventure, a gentle nudge. If you're loving this jaunt into history that's giving you more giggles than a sloth sliding down a tulip, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and let us know what bizarre royal friendship fails you can think of. Did someone once throw a cupcake in the king's face during a party? We're all ears, but only if you enjoyed it. Now, dim those lights a little, crank on a fan for that immense, ancient Macedonian breeze vibe, and settle in. Picture this. What would it be like galloping into battle on a horse while trying to keep your wig from blowing off? Was it a delicate balance of courage and sheer terror? Ever wonder what happens when your best friend stumbles off his horse in the heat of battle? Spoiler alert, you can't save him by pretending you didn't see it. Grab your pillows, snuggle in a little tighter, because congratulations, you've just woken up in the midst of Alexander's entourage, where loyalty and hilarity collide like a couple of clumsy elephants at a pottery shop. As you blink away the sleepiness, you find yourself in a dusty old courtyard, where the glorious and dysfunctional gang, known as the Hetae Aroi, are busy demonstrating every possible way to look noble while breaking a sweat. Imagine scenes of half-formed battle strategies exchanged while trying desperately not to trip over their own swords. These guys had more bravery than judgment, not unlike hunters trying to catch dinner with nothing but a rubber band and a whole lot of hope. Now, let's take a moment to explore what made the Hetae Aroi as close-knit as a quilt made by overly attached grandmothers. Firstly, they were all young noblemen, hand-picked by Alexander from among the ranks of Macedonian society. These were guys who could swing swords, ride like the wind, and look dashing in a tunic, even if it sometimes resulted in a wardrobe malfunction during parades. Ever seen a parade float demolish a wall of flowers? It's kind of like watching Alexander's buddies pass each other a sword while simultaneously trying to impress a potential crush. Talk about a recipe for disaster. And who could forget the legendary welcome parties for new members? Picture this. One moment you're being showered with goat's cheese, and the next you're part of the crew. It's like being initiated into the world's most chaotic fraternity of brave lunatics. Congratulations, you're one of us now. Here's a sword. Try not to stab it into your own foot while celebrating. These young men were bound by more than just nudges into battle. Their friendships were forged through shared danger and enough hot air spit takes during strategizing sessions to power a small city. They had each other's back so fiercely, it's as if they were playing an extreme game of human chess, where losing a knight meant your head ended up at a local market. Let's talk about how their bond was solidified through various escapades. Ever pulled a prank so good you highlighted a real friendship? Well, when Alexander and his crew figured out how to launch surprise mud bomb attacks on rival forces, it quickly blurred the line between strategy and sheer ridiculousness. The enemy, confused by the sudden onslaught of muddy footwear, couldn't help but contemplate if they were accidentally attending the world's first sloppy fashion show. And what about the battles? Ah, yes. The moment when you felt like you were starring in your own action-adventure movie. Intense music playing, enemies in sight, and the clatter of hooves beneath you. But then the reality sets in. Did someone seriously forget the spear? These blunders would transform valor into moments of accidental slapstick, all while holding the weight of destiny on their shoulders. What's lowering morale faster than getting too close to a charging horse? Realizing your pants are about to give way as you leap onto your steed. That's a historical moment we've all missed on the silver screen. And just when you thought they were all rugged warriors of destiny, remember, they were also incredibly human and prone to all the classic blunders. Like when you grappled with a challenging task, were they following brave battle strategies, or just doing what all friends do? You know, openly mocking each other while secretly feeling the need for hugs to get through the anxiety of potential sword fights. As day becomes night, the sun dips behind the hills, echoing the absurdity that life as one of Alexander's closest friends entails. From failed attempts at heroism that turned into laughter-inducing memories, to ancient dance-offs fueled by the sweet nectar of celebratory wine. Who would have guessed that building an empire could be as casual as a Saturday night gathering? They may not have had social media, but they had each other. And oh, did they know how to make a lovely mess. So, as you drift into a slumber that would make even Alexander envious, remember the pals who laughed through the chaos, armed with swords and sense of humor. Tomorrow might bring more swordplay, more muddy fallouts, and an epic tale of camaraderie to sort through. But for now, breathe deeply, tuck in, and embrace the mildly fascinating hilarity of history that'll lull you into a slumber so deep you'll dream of being one of Alexander's cherished hetairoi. Rest well, and may your dreams be filled with calm chuckles and courageous escapades. Sleep peacefully, noble dreamer. More tales await you as the night unfolds. Chapter 19. The Hetairoi's Horseback Hilarity.
Hey guys, welcome to an ancient Macedonian training session hotter than a summer day in a sheep pasture. Tonight, we're about to leap onto the backs of spirited horses while dodging the inevitable bruises, like trying to squeeze into last year's jeans after a holiday feast. Yes, it's the late 4th century BCE, where the young noblemen known as the Hetairoi are transforming into elite cavalry. If only they could remember to keep their thighs from burning off in the process. Now, before we saddle up for this wobbly ride of hilarity, a little reminder. If you're enjoying this descent into the delightful chaos of history, like a time traveler bumping into a wall of bad wigs, go ahead and tap that like button, subscribe, and share your most awkward horse-related experiences in the comments. Did you ever try to impress someone by riding a horse only to end up face first in the grass? We're all ears, just not in the man-eating horse kind of way. Now, dim those lights. Maybe grab a snack that won't end up on the floor during our equestrian escapade. And let's prepare for some very serious horseplay. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to handle a lengthy spear while juggling the nuances of equine ballet? Or how about that nail-biting moment when you're galloping and everything feels okay until you realize your boots are stuck in the stirrups? Spoiler alert, it gets complicated. Finally, all geared up? Congratulations. You've just woken up surrounded by the proud Hetairoi, where nobility meets the kind of chaos usually reserved for cat videos on the internet. As the sun blazes down mercilessly, you're greeted by a sight that could only be described as a glorious disaster. Picture it. A group of strapping young men, adjusted in knee-length tunics. Their thighs, once finely sculpted, now resembling overcooked sausages from relentless hours of horseback riding practice. You can smell the sweat mingling with the slight whiff of ambition, and, well, probably a few too many beans from last night's dinner. Speaking of the training, let's dive into it. Each nobleman is wielding a long Zeiston spear, which might as well be called the oopsie-daisies stick, considering the number of accidental pokes that occur. As the commanders shout instructions, a few Hetairoi pivot their horses at full gallop, only to be reminded that some things, like their coordination, went out the window the moment they attempted to put one boot in front of the other. Every pivot echoes across the field with the kind of enthusiasm usually reserved for a toddler caught mid-tantrum at a candy store. Can you imagine? One moment you're soaring with the wind at your back, and the next you're doing an unchoreographed version of aerial gymnastics while desperately trying to avoid impaling your buddy riding alongside you. It's like an ancient Olympic event, but everyone forgot to rehearse their parts as they gallop in perfectly imperfect harmony. The sound of hooves thundering against the beaten path is nearly drowned out by the ridiculous shouts of encouragement that only seem to serve as classic distraction tactics. "Look out! Don't stab the hay bale," they say. But really, who can focus on the hay when you're more worried about that terrifying dip in the saddle? And let's talk about their endurance. The Hetairoi experience an unique moving workout that would give modern-day gym instructors a run for their money. The intensity level rises
as each nobleman is driven to the brink of not only physical exhaustion, but utter hilarity. Ever tried laughing while riding a stubborn horse? It's like trying to sip soup while riding a roller coaster. Messier than it sounds. And amid all this training madness, friendships blossom like wildflowers in a field. The more they tumble off those saddles, the stronger their bonds grow. Like glue. If glue had a pH imbalance and a tendency to make you giggle uncontrollably. Imagine shared moments of galloping glory, interrupted by colossal faceplants, only for one friend to help another back up and into the saddle before someone gets a chance to shout, "Again!" But there's always that one character, isn't there? You know who I mean. The one who yells, "Watch this," before something goes horribly wrong. There he goes, trying to demonstrate the art of the perfect dismount, and ending up in an unscheduled roll on the ground, startling a nearby goat, and inadvertently starting the first ever Hetairoy goat chase. Spoiler alert. No goats were harmed in this training session, but several Hetairoy definitely lost some dignity. As nighttime swoops down like a flock of misunderstood owls, you cozy up alongside this brotherhood on horseback. The adrenaline dips into laughter as they gather to swap stories of clumsy escapades, while bartering over whose horse provided the most unnecessary drama. Clinks of cups filled with mead fill the air, cheers echoing like the chants of a victorious sports team, but with more spills and fewer trophies. So, as you nestle under your imaginary blanket of camaraderie, remember the Hetairoy, youngstified warriors who forged friendships, one laughable fall at a time. You might dream of galloping into mythical lands, where the only worry is whether your horse has more grace than a unicycle riding octopus. Sleep tight, and let the delightful absurdity of history carry you softly into the realms of undisturbed dreams. Tomorrow can wait. For now, let the echoes of laughter wash over you, like the calming waves of an ancient sea. Good night, gallant dreamer. Your sleepy adventure has just begun, Chapter 20. A banquet of babble beneath the torches. Hey guys, welcome to an evening more splendidly chaotic than a modern-day office Christmas party, where the only gift is a bad hangover. Tonight, we're descending into the extravagant merriment of a Macedonian banquet during the reign of King Philip II. No wish for plain old bread and water here. We're talking laughter, wine, and enough political backstabbing to make a soap opera feel like a Hall of Fame induction. But before we dive into our rich history soup, the kind that's thicker than that mystery sludge you found in the back of your fridge, let's take a moment to consider a few things. Ever wondered what it's like to share a feast with someone who also happens to be sharpening their dagger while you pass the olives? Or what happens when you mix too much mead with a subtle commentary on your buddy's questionable horsemanship?
The combination can only be described as fascinating, if fascinating loses half its teeth in an unexpected drunken brawl. So, dim those lights. Pour yourself a goblet full of something comforting, preferably not fermented grape juice left open for 2 weeks, and cozy in. You might want to brace yourself for the kind of hilarity that can only emerge when you mix royal decrees with dinner rolls. Congratulations! You've just woken up in 4th century BCE Macedon, where the oak banquet tables are longer than the odds of surviving this evening without a bad piece of meat sticking in your teeth. The warm glow of torchlight flickers around the room, illuminating a spectacle that could only be described as organized chaos. Mouths are full of delicacies, cups are overflowing, and somehow, someone's still trying to ask about agricultural reforms between bites of what's likely a roast peacock. That's right, folks. Imagine trying to make small talk while chewing on an outrageous centerpiece. As you settle into this vibrant setting, you find yourself situated between soldiers whose bravery is only matched by their tendency to knight their cups every time the wine flows. The clanking of goblets serves as the evening's symphony, creating a convivial background noise that is only occasionally interrupted by the high-pitched laughter of the companions, renowned not just for their bravery in battle, but also for their whimsical sense of humor. You know, like an ancient version of, "Dude, where's my chariot?" Speaking of companions, let's take a moment to appreciate the Hetaiacroi, who are not only King Philip's trusted cavalry, but also the world's most amusing group of young noblemen. As you look around, you notice some attempting to outdo each other with tall tales about their last battle. One of them is adamantly trying to convince the group that he single-handedly took out an entire battalion of warriors, armed with nothing but a poorly aimed spear and a well-placed cow. Cue the collective shaking of heads, with a side of chuckles that threaten to spill the mead. Pass the mutton, please, and save the judgment for the gossip column, if the Macedonians even had one. You're not here for the judgment. You're here for the ale and the camaraderie. It's practically written in the ancient scripts of fun. And thus shall they feast and argue until laughter reigns victorious over manners. But wait, what's this? See that poor fellow at the opposite end of the table? He's daringly balancing a whole leg of lamb on his knee, while attempting to impress the girl across from him. All while trying to give a war speech that sounds more like a drunken rendition of a funeral dirge. "Do not fear the enemy," he slurs joyfully, "for our spears are sharper than this mutton." Ah yes, ancient Macedonian self-embarrassment at its finest. Aristotle himself might have paused mid-lecture just to take notes on this banquet of absurdity, marveling at how effortlessly one could win a philosophical debate and lose one's dignity in the process. Now, the scent of spiced wine and roasted meats fills the air, mingling with the occasional whiff of burnt offerings that have likely ended up in the corner, charred and forgotten. It's atmospheric, it's aromatic, and somehow it feels like a culinary banquet gone wrong, and you've got front row seats to the mayhem. Let's not forget the subtle glances exchanged amongst those gathered, a delicate dance of political maneuvering while trying not to take a mouthful of goat cheese when someone throws out a compliment that feels a little more loaded than it should. "You wear that tunic splendidly," says one nobleman, while simultaneously raising an eyebrow at the one with the questionable taste in meats. Is it ribbing? Is it camaraderie? Who's to say? The personality types are already flowing with the wine, after all. As your eyes wander, you catch sight of a peculiar event. 3 hetairoi engaged in a theatrical reenactment of their last, rather spectacular cavalry charge, complete with exaggerated gestures that risk sending wine splattering across the table. Every "charge" is met with a heartfelt "oops" as someone inadvertently lunges too far forward, either in enthusiasm or sheer inebriation, which only sparks more laughter. This extravagant display is the very definition of entertainment gone wild. Snicker-worthy antics, fueled by wine and friendship. You lean back, fully enveloped in this tapestry of hysterical mishaps and sparkling conversations, as the evening unfolds like the pages of a long-forgotten, slightly drunken scroll. The laughter rolls on like the waves of the Aegean Sea, and you can't help but feel as if you've stumbled upon a moment in history that is simultaneously grand and absurd, victorious, yet hilarious. And as the torches flicker above, you know this night, filled with bold aspirations, dreadful roasting accidents, and remarkable friendships, will echo through time like an undying joke lasting more than a few centuries. The stark realization that laughter is the mightiest weapon of all lingers in the air, reminding you that amidst the pomp and ceremony, a good chuckle can withstand the ages. So breathe in, dear dreamer. Let the spirit of the Macedonian banquet warm your heart. But keep a cautious eye on that leg of lamb. It may not be as safe as it looks. You're in for a wild ride to sleep that'll weave through laughter and light, leading you to joyful dreams grounded in glorious absurdities. Chapter 21. The Libation and Oath of Exaggerated Friendships. Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves smack dab in the middle of a scene so spectacular it makes your last dinner party look like a sad gathering of introverts dissecting a tax code. Picture this: a Macedonian banquet, overflowing with good wine, questionable meat decisions, and a healthy dash of "my spear is bigger than your spear" bravado. Because we dive into the delightful chaos of this ancient feast, let me ask you a few rhetorical questions that'll both haunt your dreams and accompany you into a realm of sleep. Ever wondered what it's like to pledge your undying loyalty over a cup of fermented grape juice? Or how about sharing a drink with someone who might also be plotting your demise just a few feet away? You know, the good old loyalty pact meets friendship dilemma. Like having your best friend borrow your favorite shirt and then accidentally setting it on fire. Spoiler, it's not as much fun as it sounds. So, settle in, dim those lights, and maybe pour a glass of something that actually tastes like it's not made from fruit flies and regret. Congratulations! You've just woken up in late 4th century BCE Macedon, where the chances of engaging in philosophical discourse about the meaning of life are only slightly lower than the chances of a spat over the ladle at dinner. As you swing your legs over the edge of your imaginary chariot and assess your surroundings, you notice the atmosphere buzzing with a delightful blend of camaraderie and competitive storytelling, one that rivals a TED Talk on energy-efficient home improvements, but with more wine and less rationality. The trappings of a beautifully adorned banquet hall envelop you. Shimmering torches dance in rhythm with the raucous laughter of King Philip II's proudest warriors. Now, let's take a closer look at the centerpiece of our fine revelry. As the room quiets, one valiant companion rises from his seat, dramatically thrusts his goblet toward the ceiling, and prepares for a moment that can only be described as a historically awkward prelude to an unholy alliance. This is where things get interesting, folks. The very air seems to buzz with expectations akin to the atmosphere in a room full of athletic parents just before the big sports day, only with more wine, less yoga pants, and a much higher chance of someone losing an eye to a misplaced sword. He pours a generous libation onto the floor, a splash of wine intended for Zeus, as if to say, "Dear Father of the gods, please bless our merriment, and maybe include one of those fancy meat platters while you're at it." The wine spills over like the last drops from a stubborn bottle, creating a small purple pond worthy of Poseidon himself, sloshing in after a particularly heavy feast. In a swirling dance of intoxication and solemnity, he lifts his goblet, offering a toast that rings through the hall like an off-key karaoke rendition of your childhood favorite. Eyes glisten with anticipation as he swears an oath of loyalty to King Philip, a commitment that, if taken in modern terms, reads closer to, "I promise not to tell anyone about that time you mistook the royal horse for a manticore." You can almost hear his internal monologue. Should I make a joke about the last battle? No, too soon. All hail the king, and pass the garlic. You can't make this stuff up, folks. In response, the companions around the banquet join him, cups raised high. A motley crew of bravado, mixed with the nervous laughter of men aware that the kingdom's biggest threat might not only lie beyond its borders, but also in the next drunken bet made at the table. The sound of clinking goblets reverberates through the hall like a minuet performed by clumsy bulls in a china shop. A delightful cacophony. But let's not breeze over what this oath entails. It's not just about loyalty. It's a sworn fellowship that binds them tighter than your aunt's hugs at Thanksgiving, and just as dysfunctional. Picture a group of friends, their arms linked, swearing eternal allegiance while simultaneously plotting whose turn it is to handle the washing after the feast. "I swear to defend thee with my sword, and I promise to never remind you of that embarrassing moment you tripped while dismounting that horse." The air thickens with merriment, laughter swelling and crashing like waves on some absurdly beautiful coastline, accessed only by drunken sailors. This isn't just a dinner. It's a celebration of bonds forged in the fires of battle, humor, and perhaps a few too many rounds of mead. As you observe the scene, you realize that the nobility of Macedonia was truly something else. An evolving species adept at mixing political maneuvering with the kind of charming absurdity only ancient history could muster. And as the ode to loyalty wraps up, completing the ritualistic cycle of drink and debauchery, you take a moment to reflect. Isn't it funny that thousands of years from these raucous oaths, the essence of humanity remains unchanged? Here you are, witnessing late-night escapades mirroring a couch gathering of friends, trying to figure out who's responsible for ordering too much pizza. Only now, it involves horses, swords, and the implementation of actual battle strategies. Now, as the laughter swells and the tales get taller, you slip deeper into this sea of revelry, and the question lingers: what other colorful spectacles will this night hold? Whatever the answer, you know one certainty: you're in for a memorable ride as you tuck yourself into the embrace of an ancient Macedonian history that, much like the wine, promises to leave you with a gentle buzz and just the right amount of amusement to carry you into the realm of slumber. Chapter 22. The Blood Oath of Possibly Regrettable Decisions. Hey guys, welcome back to what can only be described as a delightful joyride through the annals of history, where the most mundane choices lead to moments that echo through time, like choosing to step on your pet's tail right when you're about to leave for work. Tonight, we leap straight into the thrilling world of late 4th century BCE Macedon. So grab your pillow, remind your brain to stop overthinking that embarrassing moment from last week, and prepare for a tale where bravery, blood, and maybe just a smidge of bad judgment coalesce into a legendary blood oath. Before we embark on our journey, let's ponder a few incredibly intriguing questions that are semi-relevant, mildly absurd, and likely to make you chuckle. Ever wondered what it's like to pledge your life over a particularly grisly-looking sheep, with an audience that looks like they're both supportive and suspicious? Or how about the logistics of shaking hands with someone who just dipped their sword into animal blood? Do you wipe it off first? Or do you just lean into that intimate connection? And for the pièce de résistance, what event in your life has resembled a toast of eternal allegiance, possibly involving your friend's dubious choice of yogurt as a snack? Now, congratulations. You've just woken up in the ancient Macedonian countryside, where the grass is greener, the sheep are fluffier, and the stakes are somehow higher than your mortgage payment. As you take in your surroundings, the sun bathes the land in golden glory. Meanwhile, a pungent scent hangs heavy in the air, a delightful bouquet of sweat, sheep, and the lingering aroma of oddly fermented cheese, just waiting to ruin a pleasant afternoon. Beneath the shade of a great oak tree, a gaggle of Alexander's closest companions gathers in a picturesque yet oddly chaotic circle, ready to engage in a ritual that's about as comforting as a blindfolded, high-wire juggling act in a hailstorm. A massive sheep stands before them, looking both regal and a little confused, a true testament to the power of peer pressure in the ancient world. You can almost hear the sheep thinking, "Excuse me, sirs, but I think there's been a tragic misunderstanding. I was just planning a peaceful evening nibbling on grass. But no, instead, it's about to become the centerpiece for a bonding ritual that would give a modern fraternity hazing a serious run for its money." Once the sacrificial sheep takes its final bow, without acknowledging the small audience waving their swords, an eerie silence falls, laden with anticipation that feels like the waiting room of a dentist who's recently read a book on paternal bonding. One of the warriors, bulkier than the average lumberjack and sporting a beard that could easily house a family of birds, steps forward with a sword that gleams menacingly in the sunlight. He lowers the blade, not to chop any wood, but to dip the tip into the sheep's blood. Yes, folks, you heard it right. They're sealing a covenant that's as much about loyalty as it is about questionable life choices.
It's like saying, "I do" at the altar, while someone's whispering, "Are you sure about this?" over your shoulder. Now imagine a nonchalant gathering of modern-day friends. Picture them, oven-mitt-clad, drinking wine out of mugs, as they dip their spoons into a bowl of melted cheese instead of sheep blood, all while solemnly declaring their undying ardor for each other's Netflix passwords. With this cheese dip, I promise to return your lawnmower in pristine condition, albeit with a slight chance of grass clippings. But back in Macedon, it's a far more serious affair. As one by one, each ardent warrior dips his sword into the blood and then brandishes it triumphantly, a display of camaraderie that's somehow both noble and kind of gross. Bicep-bristling camaraderie is mixed with an undercurrent of "what am I doing with my life?" as they swap bloody swords like it's a twisted game of trust. You can almost feel the tension rising. Are they truly bonded for life? Or is it just a really sweaty, messy game of swords? You can't make this stuff up. And once the oaths are sworn, and the blood's been ceremoniously dried off on questionable linens, which hopefully won't end up on their faces, they kick back to enjoy the night. Kind of like how modern friends would after hiring an overpriced taco truck for a party. But with fewer fireworks and way more existential dread. Around them, the rustle of mixed emotions mingles with the savory anticipation of an imminent battle. And as you glance at their expressions, you realize that pledging your loyalty over sheep's blood does breed a certain intensity. There's an edge of camaraderie so strong that if it were tangible, you could probably request it in bulk from Costco. Only let's be clear, it comes with the risk of needing to wrestle with your own morals and possibly your dinnerware, should anything go awry. Here you are, effortlessly dunking into this ancient ritual, where the stakes resemble that of performing a karaoke song so poorly, everyone suddenly decides they have a pressing engagement to flee from the room. The bonds they're building, more powerful than a double espresso on a Monday morning, remain, even under the looming pressures of a battlefield. So as your eyelids begin to flutter just like the banners whipping in the Macedonian wind, you bear witness to this vibrant theater of loyalty, perhaps flawed, mostly hilarious, and thoroughly soaked in the essence of brotherhood. Breathe in that ancient air, filled with ambition, blood, and the consequences of possibly regrettable decisions. Here, dear listener, history's laughter echoes across time, begging you to drift gently into sleep while considering whether you'd rather spill your drink or your secrets. Sweet dreams, sweet. Chapter 23. The Contrary Case of Clytus the Black and His Wine-Laden Regrets. Hey guys, welcome back to our expedition through the tangled, often absurd foliage of history. Tonight we're unfurling a tale as tragic as the last slice of cake left unattended at a kid's birthday party, except it's steeped in the weighty shadows of drunk warrior shenanigans. So, dim the lights, find that oddly shaped comfort pillow,
and brace yourself for the intoxicating backdrop of a smoky banquet hall in late 4th century BCE Macedon, where friendships crumbled faster than a cheap clay pot at a pottery fair. Now, tell me, dear listener, have you ever witnessed a fight over a game of charades escalate way beyond the imaginary fruits and vegetables? What's your official policy on drunken apologies? Do they count if they're shouted across a crowded room covered in a haze of smoke and odd smells? And while we're at it, how do you imagine making friends with a guy named Clytus, whose modesty is only overshadowed by his fondness for wine? Do you consider your life choices? Because, spoiler alert, you should. Congratulations! You've just woken up in a banquet hall circa 328 BCE, where the air smells like a fermented accident, and the floor is a veritable mosaic of spilled wine, past appetizers, and the occasional errant olive. The candlelight flickers, casting shadows of warriors against the walls, every expression gloriously illuminated right until, shocker! It reveals that many of those warriors just happen to be really bad at adulting. The scene crackles with tension. Picture it. The long wooden table is slathered in a delightful assortment of roast meats, slightly burnt bread, and a mountain of those questionable green olives that taste like a bold fashion choice gone wrong. Clytus the Black, so named for both his striking features and possibly his soul, leans back, raucously tossing a few more cups of wine down his throat like a carnival worker at a closing time sale. He's the life of the banquet, that is, until he drunkenly leans too far back and suddenly becomes the protagonist of a narrative that none of us signed up for. Now, if you had hoped for a sensible gathering, I'm afraid you're woefully mistaken. The room is fraught with raucous laughter and spirited arguments. Someone suggests Clytus is just a tad too confident for his own good, possibly akin to showing up at a costume party as a pirate, while everyone else embraced the semi-formal theme. As peer pressure works its dubious magic, laughter turns to debate, and Clytus finds himself at an emotional crossroads resembling a poorly lit alleyway filled with stray cats and poorly timed realizations. Let's be clear. In this stimulating soiree of ego and alcohol, settling petty grievances and throwing out insincere compliments isn't just part of the experience. It's basically the appetizer. Spear in one hand, wine cup in the other, Clytus decides to take offense over a loose remark about his bravery, or lack thereof. It's the ancient equivalent of someone tagging you in an embarrassing Facebook photo. 1 minute you're laughing, and the next you're shouting things you probably shouldn't. In a flash of insight that's also fueled by wine, Clytus is both courageous and, let's be real, utterly reckless. Now, a question for you. What's your favorite dramatic twist in a bad rom-com? Usually, it leads to delightful misunderstandings, right? Well, throw those expectations out the window, because in this tale, things don't come with a happy ending, or at least not one you'd write home about. The assembled warriors swarm like bees around honey, each man egging Clytus on. Spear meets squabble, and suddenly the banquet hall transforms into an arena, not quite the gladiators of old, but closer to an awkward family reunion where everyone still wants to feel like a hero. Clytus, spurred by liquid courage and his own battle cries, loses track of reason in the valiant game of machismo. With a crescendo of shouts that could make a modern-day bar brawl seem dignified, Clytus lunges forth, The spear that lays abandoned beside him, oh, the irony, finds itself thrust into a dampened evening's finale faster than an overconfident comedian's punchline flops at an open mic night. It truly is the kind of scene that could be better captured in a sitcom, where the only thing missing is a live studio audience gasping in disbelief. The moment hangs heavy in the smoky atmosphere, much like that sad leftover quinoa salad you promised yourself you'd eat this week. Silence envelops the hall, masking the chaos that abruptly shifts into something far too serious. It serves as a stark reminder that sometimes bad ideas multiply like rabbits in a barn, especially when fueled by alcohol. A valuable lesson that ages like fine wine, which is to say, it likely won't. And just like that, the vibrant revelry turns into the clang of armor and shocked cries, leaving a bitter aftertaste hanging in the air, like that regretful third helping of mystery casserole from last week's potluck. Amid the silence, one cannot help but think what might have transpired had Clytus simply challenged his adversaries to a round of board games instead. As you drift off, dear listener, remember this pivotal and yet tragically ludicrous moment in history. Clytus may have found himself at the edge of an illustrious career, but alas, he also discovered a universal truth. Sometimes, when you decide you're a valiant hero, you just might end up as a cautionary tale, sprawled out on a banquet floor, with various folks waving spears and shouting, "Well, that escalated quickly." Sweet dreams, and may your friendships always be free of spears and regrettable choices. Chapter 24, The Daring Drill of the Hittite Cavalry. Hey guys, welcome back to another delightful descent into the enchanted, yet seldom glamorous, roots of history. Tonight we're diving headfirst into a tale more exhilarating than finding the last slice of pizza in the fridge after a long day, but with just as much grease, gallantry, and a hint of danger. Picture this. Cavalry so excellent they make your average troop look like they're trying to ride a bike with training wheels. Yes, tonight is all about the Hittite, the trusty companions of none other than Alexander the Great. But before we gallop forward into this dramatic saga, let's take a moment and ponder some pressing questions. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to charge into battle, wearing a shiny bronze breastplate the size of a small car, while your friends transform into a mirror image of your favorite superhero? Why wouldn't you want your closest mates to be your ultimate backup while watching your back from a flanking maneuver? And who would ever get tired of asking their friends for directions? With spears. Now dim the lights, kick the cat off your lap, don't worry, it'll forgive you, and settle in comfortably as we whisk you away. Congratulations! You've just woken up in late 4th century BCE Macedon, where the air is thick with the scent of sweat, leather, and the unmistakable aroma of impending glory. Are you feeling heroic yet? Good. Let's talk about the cavalry. Your new reality is filled with men adorned in intricately designed bronze armor. It's not just for show, mind you. It smells astonishingly like a combination of victory and varnish. You can practically hear the clanking sounds of metal. Because who wouldn't want a soundtrack of impending doom while galloping into danger? The Hittite are pioneers of discipline, marching in serried ranks like an ancient flash mob that knows exactly when to strike. It's synchronized chaos at its finest. Imagine, if you will, A glorious morning where you and the Hittairoi gather on your trusty steeds, their manes flowing in the warm Macedonian sun like they just stepped out of a shampoo commercial. And they call you the most loyal of friends, which is a euphemism for the one who definitely knows where all the best taverns are. Sure, standing shoulder to shoulder with such esteemed warriors might seem intimidating, but between you and me, you've mastered the art of blending in. It's like pulling off a particularly daring fashion statement that your friends just can't help but admire. As you prepare for battle, the air grows charged with anticipation. It's akin to the moments leading up to a poorly planned escape room. Everyone's winding themselves up, cross-examining last-minute battle strategies instead of asking if anyone remembered to pack the snacks. I mean, you wouldn't want to be caught without your second breakfast, right? It's vital to remain fueled if you're about to ride into a full-on clash of swords and shields. Not to mention, injuries can easily lead to poor dietary choices in the aftermath. At the heart of it all lies the formation, the wedge, the great triangular spearhead cutting through the battlefield like a hot knife through butter, except this butter is made of pure enemy despair. As the horsemen advance, picture the glint of bronze armor striking fear into the hearts of their foes like a glare from an ex-girlfriend in an awkward grocery aisle encounter. You can almost hear the whisper of, "Oh no, not them," wafting through the ranks of opponents like an unsettling gust of wind. And oh, the sound of charging hooves. It's nothing less than thunder rolling across the landscape, except instead of nature, it's a group of men dressed to impress and wielding shiny spears, not your average Saturday morning joggers, that's for sure. You can feel the ground shake beneath you as the Hittairoi sputter and blur in motion, precision embodied, like a comedy troupe trying to coordinate a group dance to Uptown Funk. It's impressive how they make discipline look so fun. Or perhaps that's just the battle haze settling in. But alas, dear listener, there's a dark twist lurking between the heroic feeds of reality. You can only maintain that brave facade as long as your steed knows its way. Imagine losing track of the entire formation, only to look over and see your beloved horse nonchalantly snacking on some wild grass while chaos erupts around you. It's not exactly heroic when you're left questioning whether battling is just a really intense form of equestrian competition. Will my horse win the dandelion contest? Now, fast forward. The enemy stands proud. You can see their banners fluttering like suspiciously colorful kites thrown into the wind. And suddenly, the battle rages on, an explosion of sounds mixing with much gnashing of teeth. The thrill of victory, however, usually comes with a couple of bruises and an egregious need for dental work, but let's not dwell on that. In the midst of all the dramatics, the camaraderie is unshakable. Your mates would walk through fire for you, just after grabbing their trusty steeds, of course. As you drift off, remember this wondrous meld of bravery and folly. The Hittairoi cavalry may have ridden into some grand battles, but at least they had each other, the fearlessness of friends, and the never-ending supply of dramatic flair. And let's be real, a cavalry charge doesn't just stop mid-battle for a good laugh over someone's comically low-riding helmet. So rest easy, dear listener. Knowing history indeed gave us some charging warriors who somehow managed to look fabulous while doing so. Sweet dreams, and may you always find your perfect wedge of friendship along life's galloping path. Chapter 25. The Banquet of Brothers in Arms. Hey guys,
Welcome back to yet another cozy foray into a peculiar yet sometimes hilarious slice of ye olden history. Tonight, we're diving into something even warmer than the last slice of your mom's homemade lasagna. The lavish banquets of ancient Macedon. Yes, that's right. Prepare to feast your imagination on tales of grandeur, laughter, and poetic drunkenness more intoxicating than blending a cocktail with the unmeasured enthusiasm of a puppy in a lemonade stand. Before we dig in, have you ever wondered what it'd be like to attend a party only to realize the only drink option is fermented grape juice? Or, how's this for a thought? What if every toast sounded more like a Shakespearean soliloquy than a casual clink of glasses? And let's not forget the delightful dilemma of trying to dodge awkward questions from long-lost friends about your life choices, while feasting on questionable meats and mystery sauces. What in the world was that last dish made of? Spoiler, it wasn't chicken. Now, dim the lights. Settle in comfortably on your couch, or throne if you're feeling particularly regal, and let's whisk you away. Congratulations. You've just woken up in 4th century BCE Macedon, where the clinking of exquisite silverware against earthenware and the aroma of roasted lamb fills the air like a fragrant hug from your grandmother after a long trip. It's time to talk about the banquets of King Philip II and his son, the illustrious Alexander. Imagine it. Sumptuous tables laden with offerings fit for gods, or at least your slightly snooty rich uncle. The decor is nothing short of epic, a riot of colors that would make a peacock blush. Golden goblets gleam under the flickering light of oil lamps, their flames dancing like a group of enthusiastic Greek dancers at a wedding. You know, the ones who really get into the music. First, inhale deeply. The rich scents of roasted meats mingle with herbs and spices that may have been pilfered from every known merchant in the Mediterranean. It's mouth-watering, fragrant chaos, like someone freedom-fighting against the blandness of boiled potatoes. You can almost feel your taste buds performing a rhapsody in your mouth, while in the background, a lute strums melodies that seem smooth enough to butter a piece of bread with. It's easy to get lost in this world of culinary art, but wait, what's this? A toast? You brace yourself as the master of ceremony stands. He is a tall figure resembling a particularly seasoned tree, with a voice booming out like thunder before a summer storm. Reared back in dramatic fashion, he begins an elaborate eulogy to friendship and brotherhood that would make even a grumpy old sage tear up. If only he weren't too busy clutching his wine. As you listen, you can't help but wonder if this is some ancient version of a motivational seminar gone awry. Live, love, laugh, he practically shouts, his gestures so flamboyant they could be mistaken for a fish out of water. You chuckle to yourself, imagining how awkward it would feel to follow such a lofty invocation with an admission that you accidentally spilled wine on your tunic yesterday, or lost a lunchtime chicken leg to an overeager goat. After several toasts, which mostly involve wine being spilled like confetti at a festival, the banqueters dive into an odd mix of ancient sports commentary and reminiscences about wild escapades, like the time someone rode a donkey to a battle and got it confused with a chariot race. Laughter echoes throughout the hall like a chorus of excited frogs, and you can sense the camaraderie deepening, making everyone feel more united Then a family vote for your cousin who can't sing, but insists on auditioning for every talent show. Suddenly, things take a humorous turn as someone proposes a game, a contest of strength. Who could push back against the sheer force of wine and food while maintaining some semblance of dignity? A series of hilariously impractical challenges unfold, from guessing the number of olives in a pot to precarious attempts at pillow fights without spilling wine. And if you've ever tried balancing on a barrel after a few too many cocktails, you know exactly how that goes. It's like trying to make a souffle with an enthusiastic toddler in the kitchen. As the night stretches on and laughter flows like a late-night TV marathon, your heart swells with the warmth of togetherness, even with the characters who perhaps should not be allowed near sharp objects or the roast pig. The collective shenanigans highlight a poignant truth about those ancient bonds that ring deeper than the brassy sound of silver against wood. These moments become the fabric of legend, tales passed down like spoons and mismatched plates through the generations, where even the most menial of experiences become grand fodder for stories shared in hushed, giggly tones at the end of the night. But in the midst of this frenzy, there's a small unsung hero lurking, the wine server, who must constantly refill goblets while dodging a comically swirling cloud of nonsense and flying grapes. Honestly, if this person doesn't get knighted after such valiant service, what even are we doing here? So as you drift off to sleep, remember, amid the absurd grandiosity of Macedonian life, it's those shared meals and mildly embarrassing antics that truly enriched the pizzazz of camaraderie. Close your eyes. Imagine the sound of boisterous laughter mixing with the soft strumming of a lute, and know that the spirit of friendship is timeless, even if it occasionally includes a poorly executed leap of faith over a barrel. Sweet dreams, noble gatherings of the past. May your memory inspire epic banquets in the future. And now, as our strange little journey through history settles into quiet, breathe slow. Let the dust of ancient roads fall away, like tired thoughts dissolving into night. We've wandered through sun-baked granaries where farmers bargain silently with aloof cats, stumbled through smoky Neolithic huts where cuteness and survival wrestled at sunrise, tiptoed into superstitious town squares where panic chased shadows, stood in temples where cats ruled with divine indifference, and laughed in tombs where they were sent into eternity wearing tiny golden jewelry. We rode freezing steppes with horses who braved more wind and worry than we ever will, leaned into the warmth of loyal mounts, and shared in simple rituals of sweat, trust, and quiet companionship. Across it all, from whiskers to war horses, humanity endured. Hungry, cold, confused, hopeful, trying to make it through one more unpredictable day. And they did. They survived wolf-haunted nights, bitter winters, stubborn grain, and questionable food. They found humor in hardship, courage in closeness, and warmth in the oddest places, even in the indifferent flick of a cat's tail. So tonight, honor them, these tired souls of the past who walked so we could stretch, yawn, and complain about Wi-Fi speed. We are lucky, wrapped in blankets instead of wool tunics,
drifting to sleep in safety rather than guarding grain with anxious eyes. Feel grateful for soft pillows, steady heat, clean beds, the quiet hum of modern life. Let your body rest. Let your breath deepen. Let the centuries fade into silence. You're safe. You're warm. You've explored enough for one night. Close your eyes and drift gently into peaceful sleep. Good night.